on with the Porro deal? Who knows? We're going to have to figure it out. We've got a good stream together, guys. The people coming in, they're going to walk and walk us through it. Doesn't feel that good, does it? But I'm going to be someone that puts my neck on the line and says, it still gets done. It still gets done. Pedro Poro will still be a Contes player in 3 days' time. How you feeling? How you feeling about that? We got a lot to talk about. We got that deal. We've also got the Danjuma deal. I want to know what everyone thinks about that one. And what about Brian Gil? How has he been treated? I don't think he's been treated very well at all. I think he's the bottom of the barrel. He's the bottom of the consideration list. He's the last priority. And that's not cool. For me, that is not cool. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about this and a lot of other things as well. We got some really cool people coming in. They're going to be here in about 5 minutes' time. Let me start the show by saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, the Spurs Talk Show! Oh, it starts right now! Lovely touch from him though. Harry Kane, Lucas Moura, can you do something, please? Last chance, Matt Doherty! Oh, you shit! There could be from the dead to the don't fuck it up now, don't win it! Go and win it! Let's go for chance! Stephen Bergwijn! Stephen Bergwijn's through! Win it, Stephen! Come on! Yes! He's won it! He's gonna win it! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh! We did it! Check this out. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? I just heard a whole bunch of things in the comments saying people can't hear me. Can they hear me? Can you hear me? Let me know. What's going on, people? Somebody let me know in the comments right about now whether or not you can hear me. If you can't hear me, I've got to stop the stream and start again. Yes, you can hear me. Sure, yeah, man. You chill. What's crack-a-lacking, my brother? How you doing, buddy? How you doing? Ladies and gentlemen, it is Monday. It's 5 p.m. It's 5 p.m. What's going on, people? What's going on? Pedro Poro was done. Was he not? It was supposed to be done. I still think he's done. We're going to be talking about that. I also want to get to know everyone's opinions on what is crack-a-lacking with regard the treatment of Brian Gil. Also, is there anybody else that's going to come in? Is there anybody else that's going to come in into the transfer window deadline? Let's find out what's going on in the comments here. I need your help for the next 5 minutes until the people come and join me and say hello. What's crack-a-lacking? We got Lukey164 Spurs in the house. He's saying, good evening, Shawnee. Well, good evening, Lukey. How you doing, my man? Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. Shuriyaman Uchil. Shuriyaman Uchil. Saying free Porro. What is going on with that one? We're going to figure it out. Lee Downey's saying you can only hear the music. This is the problem. You can only hear the music. You couldn't hear me. I don't know what's going on with that. And DB is saying, he's a member of the channel. What's happening, DB? He's saying, Sean, dump the Will Stewart intro stuff. It certainly wasn't supposed to be a Will Stewart intro stuff. It wasn't. It was just supposed to be a little bit of light-hearted music. He says, Trinidadian Deep was cracking like my Trinidadian brother. He says, if this does not wake up your fan base, well, yeah, 100%. I'll try my best. Nigel Watson's in the house, another member. What's happening? He says, woohoo! Afternoon, Sean. Need some therapy, buddy. Give it to me. Well, we're going to figure that one out. We are going to figure it out. We've got to figure out the way, haven't we? There must be. It's happening. It's happening. In my opinion, it's happening. We got a lot of cool people that's going to be joining us in just a couple of minutes. We got Dave from the Irish Hotspur. We got George, the best looking man in the Tottenham community, in my opinion. He's going to be coming over and talking as well. He comes from the Football Terrace. If you watch the Football Terrace, he's one of the Tottenham representatives from the Football Terrace. We've actually got Danny Kiriakou as well. Danny Kiriakou's coming over. I believe Danny Kiriakou's coming on. Jackson Lucas is saying, yes, Paul Longworth is in the house. He's saying, good morning, all. Good morning. Must be in the other side of the pond, I think. Astra 727 saying, yes, we can hear you, dude. We can hear you. We can hear you. We're a circus, Lukey. We're not a circus, are we? I don't think we're a circus. Jacob's in the house. What's happening, Jacob? He says, of course, Spurs spend 20 million and Lamella to Seville only to loan back that player. And Jacob's saying, if you love Hill Messi or think he's hilariously bad, everyone should be pissed about it. 100%. 100%. Let me just find out. We got my first guy in the comments right now. Guys, you might know him. In fact, you know, I've got to do it the old school. Got to do it the old school way. Got to do it the old school. Do you remember this? Do you remember this, guys? Do you remember this from back in the day when I used to do this? Who could it be?
All right, next contestant, spin the wheel again, please.
It's not going to be any of them. It's not going to be any of them. This man is making his debut on the channel right now. It's been a while. I asked him about 4 months ago to come on, and then I had internet problems, and I never actually managed to come back round and resolve that whole situation. Guys, from the Football Terrace. I'm not sure if he's got his own channel. If he has, we're going to plug it. Please let me get you to welcome to the channel. It's George, guys. It's George. Hey, Jordan. How you doing, my man?
I'm good, Sean, man. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. I don't have my own channel, unfortunately, yet, but you can just get at me on my socials, wherever they are here. Durag Diary on TikTok, @_4George on pretty much every other platform. But yeah, a lot to talk about with Spurs, man. The circus and roadshow that we are.
Yeah, mate. Well, mate, thank you so much for coming on, bro. It's been a while. It's been time since we originally organized this. Let me ask you, before we get into anything specific, like, how are you feeling about Tottenham generally right now, George? Like, I don't know where you stand. Are you on the ENIC out, Levy out bandwagon? Are you a bit more balanced? Or are you like violent the other way? How do you feel about everything that's going on?
Do you know what? Yeah, with the Levy out and ENIC out stuff, I completely understand everyone with it. I just tried to separate myself. I tried to separate the actual football because I tried to focus mainly on the football aspect of our team and what we can control. We can't control the owners, so I tried to stay away from that. But I do respect what everyone says on that part because I'm not a big Levy fan, but I tried to stay away from it. With actual Tottenham and what's going on at our club, do you know what? I'm up and down. Some weeks I'm good, some weeks I'm bad, just like us. I feel optimistic some days, and I think things are getting better, and then things just come crashing down. But I still feel like we can do something this season. I still feel like we got a great manager. I still feel like we have a decent team. So I'm quietly optimistic. Let's just say that. And
where do you think the obviously we're going to talk about the specifics of the Pedro Poro deal and Danjuma in a second, but generally speaking, I just so everyone can get familiar with your stance on where we need improvements. Like, first of all, we got We're in the FA Cup. We're in the 5th round. The draw's happening in about, I guess after the game. Is it after the game or before the game tonight? Do you know?
I believe it's before the game.
Before the game. So it'll be happening in a couple of hours' time. Do you think we got a chance this year of the FA Cup?
Yeah, I've been saying it quite a few times. Like, no Chelsea, no Liverpool, no Chelsea, no Liverpool, no Arsenal. So that's 3 of the top 6 out. I mean, let me not say that we can go and do it, because every time Tottenham fans think that we can go do it, something happens. But if there's any year that we can go and do it with a manager like Antonio Conte, someone that he's a manager that wins trophies, and a team that's dying for a trophy, I feel like we can go and do it. I am, again, quietly optimistic that we can go. Let's just get round through round. Hopefully we get a decent run in up to at least the semi-finals before we get a big boy. But if we can make it that way and get to the final, yeah, I feel like we can go and win it. I do feel like we can go and win it.
And what about the squad, mate? What's your stance? So I'm the same, right? Like, I think that this year, if there's going to be a year we can do it, I think this year is the year, personally, right? But at the same time, for what it's worth, Jules, I don't know if you know my stance personally. I'm someone that's more sympathetic towards Daniel Levy's cause. I don't necessarily want him to stay. I'm at the point where I think he's taken us as far as he can and should probably move on, because I just feel like, the last 22 years, I'm not someone who focuses too much on like, the one trophy in 20 years thing. I think that he's taken us from an average league position of like 15th to the average league position of 5th or 6th, right? And I think that should be something that has a higher focus, because cup competitions have so much of an element of luck involved in them, right? And who you get and what happens when you get into the lesser stages, those things can be, you can get luck or you can't. But with the league, there's no luck, right? You have to play everybody 100%. Twice, right? And I think that Daniel Levy's done a good job. However, I think that at the same time, in the last maybe 18 months, 2 years, there's this wave of new style of ownership that has just been more around throwing the bus financially. And I don't necessarily think that our ownership are up for it quite in the 100%. Same regard as what other people are. And so for me, I'm not someone that's ever going to associate myself with the Levy out movement, because I think it's based on resentment of the ownership. I think that they have a problem with the way that they've done business in the past. I don't, but I'm at the same point now where I think that like right now it's time to sort of see that kind of, like, if you're like a rocket booster trying to reach the moon, you need little like stages of investment, like stages of boosters. And for me, I think that maybe the ENIC rocket ship has passed its
100%. It's a process, like say, like for me, like you, I've grown up on us. We were rubbish when we grew up. So for us to be battling for top 4, and it's an improvement. And I respect what the owners have done for us to get us to here. We're now one of the highest grossing clubs, which finances doesn't matter to everyone, but we are now a big club, and we can now talk to big clubs. What that we couldn't before. We couldn't compete with them financially, and we couldn't go to a lot of these big teams and go and take their players, and that now we can. So they've took us to a place where we've improved. But then again, of course, like you say, compared to all the other big clubs, we're still not doing enough. We're still not investing enough. And Levy, just the way that he wants to build a club and invest in a club, he needs to take a step back and go somewhere else. And we need someone new that wants to take Tottenham further to the club that we need to be, like you say. But taking it back to the actual squad,
go on.
We have a lot of holes in our squad. I do recognize that. I do feel like there's a lot of areas that we need improvement, depth-wise and in the first 11. I was hoping that this window we would see 3 signings to cover at least 3 of those holes, with the centre-back. And from someone, I'd say the back line being the biggest issue for me. I feel like all of our problems and a lot of the goals we concede and just the way that we play comes down to that back line just being weak, poor, and not up to what Conte needs. So I feel like if we can give Conte what he wants in that back line, you'll see a massive improvement in the squad. Because you look at our front line, we've still got one of the best front lines in the league. And then you look at the midfield, there's a few problems in the midfield, but again, just holes that need to be filled for us to just better that squad.
Mainly in the back line, though, is it for you?
Yeah, mainly in the back line for me.
Okay. George, stay there 1 second. I'm going to bring in the next man who wants to come and join the conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have to do it again just for argument's sake, because I feel like I haven't been playing these videos enough recently since October when the streaming. So we're going to do who's the guest? Who can it be?
All right, next contestant, spin the wheel again, please.
ladies and gentlemen, you know this man. He is the #1 Harry Kane fan. He's Ireland's #1 Tottenham Hotspur fan. I don't know if this man has streamed with George before, but it should be a little beautiful trifecta of insight and information. Please welcome to the show, my mate. It's Dave, the Irish Hotspur. How you doing, Dave?
Yeah, I'm all good. First of all, apologies I'm late, Jack. I wanted to do a quick update last minute. I ran 5 minutes over. So I do apologise on that, Shawnee. That's very, very bad of me. You're never late for my streams, so I do apologise. Never streamed with George before, so good meeting you, my man. And look, hopefully we can all have a good conversation on everything that's going on. Never a dull day in the Spurs community, Sean, out in the day of life of a Spurs fan. There's always something to talk about.
Never a dull day. Listen, I do want to get straight into the Porro thing between the two of you. But before I do, I want to pivot on something that George just said there, Dave, right? And he was talking about, he's happy with, I think what you're saying is that you're happy with the front line, right? The front line is our strongest probably asset. The midfield, we've got areas that you still could improve on. And I think we all are pretty confident that the back line needs a lot of help. But for me, I just want to focus a little bit on the middle ground before we get into Porro, before we look on Danjuma, before we talk about Brian Gil and the things that are going on, just in terms of the gap. I don't hear this enough. For me, I don't think it's a conversation point that I hear anybody in the Tottenham space talking about. Like, where is our Casemiro? Where is our Thomas Partey? Who is our Rodri? Right? Like, would you agree with me that in order to be a successful team, like Jack Kinnicky, Dave, your partner in crime, and I were on this channel last week, and we did a squad depth analysis, and we've stacked ranked every single team based on the relative squad of the strength of their squad, right? And we figured out that Tottenham are probably 7th, just about above Wolverhampton Wanderers. And the common denominator of all of the teams that are above us is that they have an absolute monster of a midfielder that can step in, whether they're a beast in strength, a beast in pace, their ability to do all things. I think that our version of that is Bentancur, but I don't know if Bentancur actually fits into any particular mold. You never see Bentancur smashing somebody, right? You might see him doing a little bit of trickery occasionally here and there that can, that sometimes works out, sometimes doesn't. But if he's our best, is there an argument to say that maybe Tottenham to go on to the next level? And I'll come to you first, Dave, then I'll bring Jordan on this one. Do you think that, like, is there a need for us to go and sign somebody? Maybe, I don't know who that would be, Frank Kessie, someone like that who can try and become Tottenham's version of the commander of the midfield, that absolute stalwart that can smash people to pieces and then still find a pass or get back and make that challenge when you need it in the last breath.
Yeah, look, I think most Spurs fans, Sean, have been crying out for that sort of world-class midfielder, someone that on any given day can walk out there and completely dominate a game and drag your team through a game, even when, your team aren't playing well. I mean, I grew up watching Ireland. I had Roy Keane to do that for me. You know what I mean? And we do need someone at that level. But look, where the squad was at, Sean, we were never going to get that in the short term because it was all about plugging holes and filling out the squad to get through the amount of games we had at the start of this season. And I know a lot of people have their gripes about maybe the level of the transfers that we brought in this summer. But at the end of the day, thank God we brought in the amount we did, because look at the injury crisis we've had to go through this season. If we didn't bring in the amount of bodies we did this summer, it would have looked even worse. But last summer, it was about filling out that squad. We knew coming into the summer, we've got a bare 11. That's it. So it was always about filling out the squad with decent players so that when you need them, you can put them in there. Now, look, some of the signings have worked out, some of them haven't. But, if we can get Porro done today or tomorrow, which, look, I know we're going to touch on, that's a touchy subject. But this summer, and I've always said this, Sean, once you fill out the squad, this summer, you should be in a position where you don't need to fill so many positions. So if you've got 80 million, you could throw that down on one deal. Get in a big boy in here. But the problem is, we haven't been in a position to be able to do it. The last time we was under Pochettino. We tried it with Ndombele, we tried it with Lo Celso, and they failed. So, we had to have a complete reset. We had to shift a lot of shit out. So it was always about filling the squad out. Now, hopefully this summer, like I said, you don't have much to do. That's hopefully when you can start seeing the big boys arrive in here.
I think the problem is that we do have a lot to do this summer. And not just the midfield, is that we got like areas, all these different areas that we need to cover, a few players that need to get rid of. and there's a lot of moving parts at the moment, especially with not knowing who the manager's going to be. We're in a very, very difficult position. And just touching on what Sean said, so with the midfielder, I think someone said in the comments, Bissouma was supposed to be that guy. Bissouma was supposed to come in, take Højbjerg's place, and then work alongside Bentancur and be that sort of guy that can come in and like be the midfield destroyer, but as well as move the ball forward up the pitch. But he hasn't adapted well enough. He looks shaky at times. He grew some confidence in the game against Preston, but that's Preston. I don't want to see those performances against Preston. I need to see that against the big boys. He was doing it last season, controlling midfields for Brighton against Liverpool.
And why is that, George? Why can't he do it for Tottenham? Is it a lot of people were saying it's Conte, right?
Yeah, 100%. It will be the manager, but also that he's adapting from a midfield 3 to a midfield 2. It's very different. You get less time on the ball. There's more people to cover, more space to cover, and I think Bentancur does the job really well. I think he can be that player for us. But like you said, I feel like he needs someone like next to him that's just a bit more gritty. Someone like Højbjerg, but Højbjerg, we know he gets dribble past too often. Whenever he gets the ball, it's just that little bit short on the pass, or he's inconsistent with those long passes. Sometimes you see him doing amazing pass, but then sometimes he just got a whole game where he's just losing the ball constantly. Yeah. And I feel like we just need a bit more consistency in our midfield with those players. Bissouma needs to gain consistency, gain confidence, and then we'll start to see the better Bentancur and Bissouma collaboration. But at the moment, like you said, I feel like we do need to bring someone else in. I do feel like not even a Kessia. I feel like we need someone even as a higher profile, like an SMS, Sergio Milinkovic-Savic, like a Brozovic, someone that's already playing at the highest level, and take them and just pop them straight in, and they're not going to have a problem adapting to the Premier League or to our team.
Conte has the shackles on Bissouma. If you look back at his history, when he was at Chelsea, Fabregas didn't touch that team for quite some time until he learned the role of what Antonio Conte wanted from him in the midfield. When Christian Eriksen went to Inter Milan, again, didn't touch the team. That January, we were talking about maybe taking him on loan back because it was rumored that Conte didn't fancy him. But it's not the truth. Conte wants these players to be a bit more disciplined and to understand his tactics before he even puts them out there. Now, is Bissouma slow at picking up the instructions and what he wants? I'm not so sure, but the Bissouma one, we know there's a player in there, but like George was saying at Brighton, he played in midfield 3, but he was also allowed to break from that midfield 3, get forward and affect the game. Our midfielders, if you look at our games, Antonio Conte doesn't want them to do that. He wants them to sit there, just above the halfway line and be there to recycle the ball from the left to the right-hand side. He doesn't want them breaking the lines. And maybe that's where the problem is coming in with Bissouma, that maybe he is struggling to understand the tactics. Mm-hmm. That one is on Antonio Conte.
But do you think that we can go this for hours, and I do want to spend some time on it. I know we're going to get to the Porro thing in a minute, but there's nothing that I can see on Twitter that's changing, so we can hold off on that for a second. But for me, I wonder whether or not this argument, if Bissouma is going to be our guy, and he learned his trade in a midfield 3, is there any argument at all that Conte can adapt? Right, like I say, when I did that stack rank with Jack about the best squads in the Premier League. Everybody plays a back 4 apart from Tottenham. Or maybe there's 2 or 3 other teams that play maybe a back 3 occasionally, a back 5 occasionally. Is Ben Davies, Eric Dyer, Sanchez, Romero, Longley, are they that bad that there is absolutely no way that we can play a back 4 and then allow Bissouma? Because allow me to land on this one. If Bissouma suddenly becomes his usual self, of smashing people and protecting the back 4 in a situation where he's played in a back 4. And the only times that we've seen a back 4 for Tottenham is when we're trying to chase a game, when we played the 4-2-4 during a game, which is for me too, a little bit too gung-ho. Is there absolutely no rationale that Conte could pivot to a back 4, play Bissouma almost as that third, he's not going to be a centre-back, but that third kind of defensive hold, and then allow something else to happen? Because for me, Bissouma right now, I agree with both of you that he's absolutely wasted. He's got his shackles on. He doesn't fit the 3-4-3 model. But in order to get the best out of him, you need maybe to make some adaptations elsewhere. George, is there any chance
yeah,
at all that
no.
you think that we can play that system? Or
We can't with the defenders we have. If you remember under Jose, he literally done that same system. He played the back four with Dyer, Davies, Doherty, and whoever the other person with, and he had Sissoko coming in as the fifth right back, and so they can get tighter. And it worked sometimes, but you saw that our defense and those players in that defense far too many times just had individual errors in them. They cause mistakes. They give the ball away. They can't play out from the back. Dyer constantly lobbing the ball up forward with no one up there. It just causes us to break down and constantly bring more pressure onto that back four. So I don't feel like we can play the back four with those players we have. If we have Porro, I mean, we're signing Porro. He's a right wing back. He obviously can adapt to playing as a right back, but he's best used playing a bit higher up the pitch. So I feel like the way that the Conte system works and the way to get the best out of him and his teams is just to use his system. But we do need another centre back in there. I don't feel like maybe Dyer might be able to work if there's another better left-sided centre back, but still, I think he's the weakest guy in our back line. I feel like it needs to be Romero, Longley, and then someone else plotted into the middle. And then our back line would actually look all right. It might not be amazing, but that back five is going to be a lot more better with a ball at feet, a lot more fluid, and that we're going to be able to play some decent football and be a lot more solid.
I just want to come in on that.
Yeah, please, yeah.
Look, the board also know we can't afford to play back for what we've got. Under Pochettino, the problem was conceding goals. We were still scoring goals, we couldn't keep them out. So they sacked him and they said, okay, we're bringing the best defensive manager in world football. He'll be able to sort out that problem across the back line. He's known for it. He'll be able to get these players to form a cohesive unit. I mean, it was such a stain on Jose's resume with the way that back line was performing. It was absolutely horrific. It was actually embarrassing. Now, Spurs fans fell into the trap of blaming Jose for absolutely everything. So what happened is the board ended up sacking Jose. Spurs fans were delighted to see the back of Jose, thinking, okay, things are going to get better. They then hired Nuno. But the condition with hiring Nuno is they wanted him to move from his back five at Wolves to a back four at Tottenham. Again, it didn't work out. The defense was just too leaky. It was costing us goals. But under Jose, we had a different problem. We weren't conceding earlier on. We were conceding late on. That was a problem back then. So they made Nuno switch to a back four at Tottenham. They realised that didn't work. But instead of taking no for an answer and continuously looking to upgrade this back line, they said, okay, well, the only other solution is bringing in a manager who plays a back five. So they brought in a manager who plays a back five, and he still can't get a cohesive song out of these guys to be able to keep them out. He did for a while. But ultimately, like we've seen with some of these players, they get a manager bounce and then the form falls off a cliff. Yeah. And it looks like the manager is going to be the one to pay the price again. And they'll always pay the price because it's cheaper to sack a manager and getting a new guy than it is spending money on the defenders that are capable to play at a level like Tottenham. When you look at the investment in the squad over the last few years, we've invested in the forward line, we've invested in midfield. Where have we not really invested too heavily since Toby and Jan?
Yeah, in the back line. Yeah, 100%.
We brought in Romero, we brought in Joe Rodon, who's now gone, and we brought in Langley on loan. So we will not take no for an answer. It's a lack of investment across that back line. I sat here in the summer. Everyone was telling me, Dave, get off Dyer's back. He's come good. Give him a chance. Same with Davies. Same with Sanchez. I went against absolutely everybody. I spent days fighting it. You're all going to be back here in January screaming about centre-backs. And here we are now, people burning the place down because they all want centre-backs in. It's a huge problem at this football club. It's a problem that predates...
A bigger problem than the right wing-back?
Well, look, the right wing-back has been going on since the sold Kyle Walker. Every sign in that position has got worse. And that's why I was hoping Pedro Poro come in. But yeah, it is a bigger problem than right wing-back. Because at the end of the day, Sean, we want a right wing-back in here to help us going forward so that we can have attacks going down the right and the left-hand side, right?
Yeah.
But we're scoring goals. But I highlighted this problem in the summer. You've got to keep them out. The greatest manager ever to grace the Premier League, Sir Alex Ferguson, his literal quotes were, defence wins you titles, attacks wins you games.
Okay.
We know as Tottenham fans, when we had Yobi, or not Yobi, but that's a good nickname, but Toby, Jan, Walker, right? We know when we had them, the benefits of having a good backline. You know what it can do for us? It can propel you to a Champions League final, put you in league title races, get you to the deep semi-finals and finals of the Cups like we were under Pochettino. We know the benefits of having a good backline. Now, what's changed at Tottenham since Poch? Toby, Jan, Rose and Walker, and the backline. But the front line is still more the same with Kane and Sutton. They're still scoring goals years later, but we can't keep them out. So we have to learn to start keeping clean sheets in order to win games. You go into a game already guaranteed a point. But when we're going in at half-time 1 or 2-0 down, it makes it harder to win games. So therefore, it's like a house. You start with the foundations. It's got to be solid. It's what you build upon. After that, everything else comes with it.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. I love what you're saying. I agree with everything you're saying to a point.
Yeah.
Let's now pivot to the Porro mess, right? Mm-hmm. Now, at the moment, we don't know what's going on. I woke up this morning to people saying it's off, then it's not off. It's still being haggled over, negotiated over. I've seen tier 1 sources saying that the problem is that the release clause expired 12 days before 12 days before the end of January. I've seen other tier 1 sources 2 days ago saying that the release clause wasn't even a thing in January because Porro's in his first year of his contract, can't be activated until the summer. I've seen the people that have got Levy out intentions pushing that this is Daniel Levy's fault and they can't wait to protest against Manchester City. I've seen people that are like not Levy out saying you're just cherry picking information. No one knows what's going on. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to start with you, Dave. I'll let you finish your point on this one because I'm going to ask you a question. First of all, do you still think it's going to happen? And second of all, if it doesn't happen, is there a way to salvage the window? If you think that the right wing back is less important technically than a better defense, is in a world where Sporting are just saying, nah, see you in the summer, is there a way to salvage it by taking the 45 million that you would have spent on him and going and spending it on one, if not two centre-backs, like maybe a Stefan de Vrij on the cheap from Inter who are desperate for money and a Hincapié? Is there a way that you can plug some holes in the next 24 hours if Porro doesn't happen, but also, of course, include your opinion of whether the Porro deal can still be salvaged?
Oh, Pedro Poro, Sean and George. I went to bed last night delighted with a raging hard on. Nice one. Wake up in the morning, I'll have a stroke out to Pedro Poro. Turns out there is no Pedro Poro. It's done and dusted.
Pedro Noro.
I woke up this morning like that, and then by 9 a.m. I was like that. It's unbelievable, lad. You know?
A flaccid Monday morning. Terrible.
Do I think it's going to get done? Now, look, this could go either one or two ways. Look, I don't like the way it's been shaped up that Daniel Levy's putting on his cape and he's coming in to save the day. The whole reason why Paratici was brought in the first place was to negotiate the deals because Daniel Levy notoriously made deals hard to get done because of how tough he is in negotiations. So the idea was to bring Paratici in to let him do the deal. So I don't like the fact that it's Levy's coming in to save the day. If you want my personal opinion,
yeah,
I think it's done. I think it's done. I think this is all being dragged out to announce him tomorrow to overshadow the protest at the training ground tomorrow. If you want my personal opinion, that's where I'm at with it. It was the same with Bentancur and Kulu last year. That was done 2 or 3 days beforehand, but they announced it right before the protest near deadline day so that when the protest happened, every Spurs fan is sitting there going, well, what are you protesting for? We have to bring in 2 good signers, this, that, and the other. And it looks like history is about to repeat itself again. But if it doesn't happen, Sean, it's going to result into more bodies than ever before getting down to protest.
Yeah, it's going to be chaos. It'll be chaos. Yeah.
It will result to that. But here's the problem. You cannot blame the club, Daniel Levy or ENIC, on what's happened today. That's all on the CA agency failing to report deals properly earlier on in the window to Tottenham, but also on Sporting shifting the agreement that they had because they want an extra 3 million to cover the administrative costs that this deal is going to take to be able to get all the paperwork done and everything else official for this deal. Yeah. Now,
if that's what it is, if that's all it's going to take.
See, this is the thing, though, Sean. Like, Me personally, I'd say, look, fuck it, 3 million. What's that in football terms? Like a fiver to a kid going to a shop. Sign the deal, get it done. But then you do that, you leave yourself open to them waking up tomorrow and going, 24 hours to get a deal
it's
done.
not enough.
Yeah, we're going to throw another 5 million on this. So you open yourself to that. If I was Tottenham, I'd say, look, we'll cover the 3 million, end of. But
last chance saloon, right?
Yeah.
We'll pay it, and that's it. We're done. If we're not done, you got an hour to say yes. Otherwise, it's off, and I'll go and pay into 20 million for Dumfries, and I'll take De Vrij at the same time.
But the problem is, Sean, is right. Sporting also know the pressure is on Daniel Levy from the fan base and from the media.
Yeah.
They're obviously using this to say, well, hang on a minute. We know you need to get this deal over the line to appease the fan base. So we can extort you for more money. We can play silly buggers with this.
And this guy, this sporting chairman allegedly is like the Portuguese Daniel Levy. Like
but he's using that, Sean. He's using that to extort more money. But here's the problem. Number one target, you had the period of the World Cup to be able to get the deal done. Should have been done the start of January so that it didn't come to this point. You know, the fact that the Sporting can use everything going on around Tottenham to hold Tottenham to ransom. We should never have let it got this far. We should have tried to get this one done very early in the window. And I know some people are going to say, oh, Dave, but Sporting made it clear they didn't want to let him go till after the Cup final. Yes, because it looked like the deal was about to get done the day before the Cup final. Now, why would they let him go? But if that offer was in on the 1st of January, of course they would have let him go. But the deal is not off yet. They have agreed personal terms with Hector Bellerin from Barcelona. Now, Barcelona,
and he's having a medical. He's having a medical allegedly. He's having a medical right now.
The reason why I think this one will go through, Sean, is because the Liga told Barcelona there a few days ago they have to reduce their wage bill by 150 to 200 million before next season. So they have to offload players. Now, where the stick up is, they haven't actually agreed a price yet. But I'm betting my hedge that Barcelona have to let him go. They will get a deal done. And once that's in place, you'll see Pedro Poro arriving at Tottenham. Because Pedro Poro refused to train today. He's let them know he's pissed off. Do they want to keep an unhappy player for the next 3-4 months of what's left of the season? I'm not so sure. So, look, I do think Pedro Poro will get done. But, look, it didn't need to be this difficult. Only Tottenham. It's only as Tottenham fans that transfers are difficult every transfer.
Listen, I'm going to challenge you on that one in a minute. But
okay,
I definitely.
I've said a lot there.
No, it's great, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think we just pay too much attention to Tottenham and we ignore things that are happening elsewhere because the same thing happens elsewhere. George, I want to come in on you, mate. Get your take on this one right now. But before I do, give me 1 second. Couple of super chats. Moondog saying, "Good evening, lads. Good evening, Moondog. I hope you're okay, mate. Thank you for the super chat." Brandon Trollo is also here. What's happening, Brandon? I hope you're okay, my man. He's saying, lads, City replacing Cancelo with Porro. That's not happening. That can't be happening.
They have Rico Lewis.
They got Rico Lewis. They got Carl Walker. Brandon, I love you, my man. And I want to get some of those recipes of your Italian dishes that you pull up. But I don't think that's happening, man. But good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. And John Stokes is in the house saying, Levy out, Porro in, Conte in.
Big up, John.
Big up, Johnny boy. I hope you're okay, my man. Listen, I can't associate myself with Levy out. I can't do it when there's so much animosity and resentment of the ownership. I don't share it. If there was a hashtag that could be like created that represented a movement of people that were like me, that think you've taken us as far as you can, thanks for everything, but it's time to go, then I'd retweet that hashtag all day long, every day, but that one doesn't exist yet. George, mate, what's your take on the Porro thing, man? Like, where are you at with it?
It is a bit of a shit show, if we're being honest. It really is, because, like you guys said, we got the here we go from Fab. The deal was done, and then for a day later, like the Irish Hotspur said, I went to sleep feeling good. I was literally on a podcast yesterday saying we got Porro, things are feeling good, I'm feeling happy, and then I woke up to this shit. I look at my phone. They say I literally just threw my phone. I was like, I ain't gonna look at this because, like you guys said, we should have at the start of the window paid the money, got the deal done, and he would have played 3 or 4 games. Our team would have looked better in 3 or 4 games, important games that we needed points in, games against Arsenal, games against City, and now we're looking back and we're like, do you know what? Look, we could have no one at this point. So it is a bit of a shit show. I do think that the deal will get done. they did say that it's not Daniel Levy. Apparently, the intermediaries have been messing around, and there's been like miscommunication and a lot going on. So I can't really blame it on Tottenham. Can't blame it on Sporting. But then again, once the deal's done, I don't know what Sporting are doing, coming back asking for more money. It is a bit silly. The player's not happy. But, you know, without all of this, I still think the deal's going to go through. I did say we'll see him on Monday. I guess it's going to be Tuesday. The deal's going to go through. We're going to see him. He's going to be in a Tottenham shirt. And yeah, it's just not, I'm just not happy as a Tottenham fan to be going through all of this rubbish at the last stage, especially a player that had a release clause. He had a release clause at the start of the window. We're paying more than the release clause.
Okay.
Well, and it's going to be close to 50 million that we're paying. So
okay, but I want to come back to you on this one, because there is this like dichotomy of news that's out there, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, Daniel Levy, just fucking pay the release clause, bro." But from what I've heard from people that are like not in the know, some in the know, some like think they're in the know but aren't in the know. Like I've heard so many different versions of it. I've heard versions that, as I said earlier, that the release clause wasn't even a thing in the January window, and that because he's in the first year of his contract, the release clause doesn't even activate, or isn't activatable, if that's even a word, until the summer. And then I've heard people like Paul O'Keefe come out this afternoon or this morning and say, actually, the release clause was like you could activate it, but only in the first 18 days of the window. But there's tier ones on both sides, and we all know that tier ones get it wrong 100 times more than they get it right. You know, like they're always like scrambling for information. Even like you say, Fabrizio Romano, right? He's given the here we go on Danjuma, and then he had to renege on that and pivot, right? And so the same thing happened where he gave the here we go on this one, and he's now probably panicking a little bit. To me, I don't think that we should necessarily have to base our opinions on the release clause thing, because there's so much misdirection and misinformation that's out there about that. But I take the point from people that, you know, we could have probably just paid a certain figure up front, and that's Daniel Levy is definitely responsible for that. George, I'm going to stick with you though. Do you think that in a world where Pedro Poro doesn't come off, is there any chance that if it fails, and should Daniel Levy, he's taken over negotiations, because that, like you say, the intermediaries. By the way, what the hell is the intermediaries doing involved? Isn't that what Paratici is supposed to be doing?
That's what really bothers me. I thought this was Paratici's job. I know, obviously, but I do know he's been having all this court case over the past month. So I take it he couldn't get involved, or there's something going on as to why we don't want him involved. He's obviously doing some dodgy dealings, and we don't want him to mess up any of our future deals or future signings. But it's like a drag. Like Irish Hotspur said again, with Tottenham, it just seems like every deal we do drags out. Every deal where we've identified a top target and we'd be like, we want this player. I remember when it happened with Romero, like he said, the deal was done for about a month, and it's just saying Tottenham's the number one target, Tottenham's the number one priority, and the deal just takes long and it gets dragged out, and we're just sat there looking like we could have integrated this player into the team by now. We've got a bag of fixtures coming up over the next 2 to 3 weeks, pretty much 2 games a week over the next couple months.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to come into the team and pretty much adapt instantly, because they're saying that Conte is a fan of him, but he isn't necessarily a Conte mold type of player. So Conte's still going to have to do some work with him. And we know what Conte's like. He is very particular. He might like you and then put you in the team and be like, it doesn't really work. I fancy Doherty today. So
could you imagine that? Could you imagine that? Imagine we spend all this day fighting amongst ourselves, like Levy in, Levy out, Conte in, Conte out. We finally get the deal done, and then Conte sticks him on the bench like he does to Jed Spence.
Like that's definitely what can happen, and not giving us enough time, or giving him enough time to adapt to the squad, will be a problem. That's something that we will have to face. But yeah, no, I do still feel like the one other thing is that we've focused so much on this deal at this point now, with this all messing up, is that we're definitely not going to be able to bring in no one else. And just with
nobody else, right? So you're saying no. So if this deal falls apart, like if Daniel Levy does take over and then says, like, sends over a fax or an email or whatever tonight and says, listen, I'll pay the 3 million quid, whatever it is, the admin fees. If that's what's the problem, where the difference is, I'll pay it. Agree or disagree, but you have until 8 p.m. to agree. If they then come back and say, nah, fuck it, we'll talk again in the summer, do you not think that there's any chance that we could pivot and go and use that 45 million quid that we allocated there in other places. To Dave's earlier point, Dave thinks that centre-backs are more important than right wing-backs. Could we make do? Would Emerson Royale or Doherty be naturally better or potentially better used for the second half of the season if we had a rock-solid centre-back like, I don't know, an Indica or a Hincapie? I'm not saying that they're rock-solid because they actually have a lot of mistakes in them, but they're like, if we could expedite the process, George, of getting in one of those centre-backs now rather than summer in the face of losing out on Porro, is that possible in your mind? Or
I don't think so. I feel like personally that there's just going to be not enough time to get a deal done for a good enough player. Players like Hincapie and Dicker, or for me, I want players of a higher level at this moment in time. Like, I feel like we need to bring in someone that's just going to be solid and adapt instantly. No clubs are going to want to get rid of their player with 1 or 2 days left in the window. And if they do, they're going to charge a big, hefty fee on top of what they normally would, because now they need to replace that player. And Daniel Levy's not someone that's just going to get pushed over and pay extra money for a player just because there's a few days left in the window. I don't see it happen. And 55 million people are saying that that's the budget. 45 million is not our budget for Porro. That is the budget we're trying to pay across installments across years, because we didn't want to pay that up front. So our budget really is around 25, 30 million. And I don't feel like we're going to go out there and spend that on another player to replace the fact that we didn't get Porro. I feel like if we don't get Porro, we might end up with a loan signing and then maybe someone rubbish to just come in and fill out until the end of the season. But even if we do get Porro, I still feel like we need more. And the problem is that we're focusing so much time on this Porro deal, we're not going to have enough time to go and get those other deals done. And it doesn't look like, whilst Levy's working on this one, Paratici's working on other deals, because I know obviously not in the know and in the know of everything, but there's been no links, no rumors about us even going into other players or even trying to make deals happen for other players. And the fact that we're focused on just one deal at a time is where we go wrong. Good clubs focus on 3 or 4 deals at a time and just moving parts. And that's what we were told. We were sold that Paratici's this guy that works on 10 different deals at a time.
Yes,
he does
mate.
this, he does that. This is what we heard, and none of it's happening. We're all just being sold a dream at this point.
I do want to add
love that. Yeah, I'm sorry, Dave. I want to just chime just 2 seconds. I'm coming back to you because what George just said, I want you to answer, because you are the guy who promotes the Mr. Paratici, the Don.
Yeah.
And I want you to answer that, because he is the guy that's supposed to have 25 different plates spinning at one time. Before I do, guys, there's 330 of you in the YouTube. Love it. Do me a favor, smash the like button for me. I haven't asked already. Hopefully this one request of you all to do that is going to just get that likes sliding up towards where the algorithm can pay attention to it. Keep hitting the like button. If you haven't already, subscribe. If you're watching this and you can see that you can't comment because you're not subscribed, just hit the subscribe button. You can immediately jump into the conversation. Them the rules. I appreciate everybody for joining George and Dave. And I've got somebody else I'm bringing in right now. I'm going to say hello to him quickly, then I'm going to hand over to Dave. Adam William Cahill's in the house. What's happening, Adam? You okay, my man?
Not too bad, mate. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate being on to have this. I've missed a significant amount of this, but I'm sure it's been a very interesting and potentially heated discussion. So I'm happy to jump in.
It's fiery, bro. It's fiery. It's good. It's good times. I know we've only got 15 more minutes with George before he's got to jump to the football terrace. But Dave, I do want to come in. I need you to answer. Well, first of all, get off your chest what you were going to say, and then also tackle what George's point is, which I think is a very pertinent point. Yeah. Where the fuck is Don Paratici with his 94 plates? He's spinning them all. What's going on, bro?
You know where he is. First of all, I just want to say, let's not get any hopes up about Pierre and Hincapie. Dan Kilpatrick let us know earlier on today that it won't be happening this January. If it'd be looking like summer, if anything, and that goes along with what we were told earlier on in the window, not to expect centre-backs this summer, or this January, but to expect 2 in here in the summer. So that sort of lines up with what we're being told. So that will be off the table. But look, when it comes to Paratici, look, take the Don out. That was a bit of fun at the time. It just goes to show how many people listen to me, though, that it's spread out everywhere. People sitting there going, is he the Don? I mean, look, he's Italian. The Mafia is also Italian, so it was a bit of play. So it should never be, is he a Don? But let's take him on the work he's done. First of all, you've got to remember, and I think, with so much that happens over a short space of time in football, people are very quick to forget what he's had to do. He's had to clean up the mess that Steve Hitchen has done. Now, whether you like it or not, his his recruitment has brought us from Europa Conference League back into the Champions League football. And that's nuts and bolts of it at the end of the day. Has he done a good job for Tottenham? Yes. Steve Hitchen pissed about 350 million. And we went from a Champions League final down to a Europa Conference League team. Now, I don't have the exact figures on what Paratici has spent here, but at the end of the day, we're now a Champions League team. His recruitment has been better than Steve Hitchen's, but he's still trying to sort this mess out. Steve Hitchen acquired a lot of players that nobody else around world football wants from Tottenham, that are on big wages, that we paid big transfer fees for. So we're finding it very, very, very hard to offload these guys. And it is halting how quickly we can turn around this mess, because you've got to find homes for these guys. You can't carry them on the wage bill. So, we've got to understand that first. And you also look at the players he first got rid of when he first came here. He's tried his very best to try and get a lot of these players out the door as quick as he can. The likes of an Ndombele finding a loan move, same for Lo Celso, ripping up Aurier's contract, this, that, and the other. Now, look, he hasn't got every signing spot on, but he has improved this squad. I know we're going through tough times now, but he is getting to us to a point where hopefully in the summer you can go out and you can start bringing in big boys in here, because he's filled out the squad. So now you're only looking at identifying in a few positions. It was only before the summer transfer window started, we were talking about looking at filling 8, 9, 10, 11 positions, and he is dwindling that. He's completely trying to rotate this squad from when Steve Hitchen was in charge of the recruitment to where he is now. And this January, he has been hiding. It's been pissing me off. I've even asked where he is. But look, we know why he's being hid. We know why. Let's not pretend we don't know why. He's being hidden. He's being kept out of the limelight, so that hopefully everything else calms down about him, and so that he doesn't overshadow what's going on at Tottenham right now as well. We know why. It's a classic tactic used by many powerful people.
Well, sorry, wait, hold on. So you're saying that Paratici, because of the stuff that's hanging over his head, that he's 100%. Hiding in the background?
100%.
Then what the fuck is he employed? He should be fired immediately. He's being told
to hide in the background, but then your problems with with leaving ENIC, not Paratici. He's the one that's being told to hide in the background.
But he shouldn't be hide. If he's being told to hide, then he's not. He is. Like when I saw today that whoever it was, the CAA group or whatever it is, I know Danny Kiriaku's in the chat. You're supposed to come on, Danny, but your mates who knows the people that know the people that work for that group, you're saying, or these people, I see it on other people, Lily White Rose on Twitter saying Daniel Levy's taken over from these middlemen idiots that have completely bulldozed this deal like absolute monkeys. Like, why is Daniel Levy taking over? Why isn't he?
Levy's done a lot of our deals though, because I heard he was the guy that done the Basuma deal. He was the guy that done the Spence deal. He's the guy that done the Danjuma deal. It seems like Levy's still doing all the work that Paratici's not doing. He's supposed to be the CEO of football, and it seems like he's a CEO of nothing right now.
But who's told you that though? I haven't seen that. Who's told you that?
With the Basuma deal and the Jed Spence deal.
I know the Jed Spence deal was definitely him, because it is like he's got like his daughter or someone's wife or whatever had some relationship. But Basuma, I didn't know that was the case.
I heard the exact same thing about this Basuma deal. I heard that he was working on it since prior to the summer window, and that he was the guy leading our way because he brought Basuma in, not as a Conte player, as a player that Tottenham had been targeting for a while.
Okay, and the same with even Danjuma.
Danjuma, well, I mean, it looks for itself. This isn't a deal that Paratici went and done. He's been disappeared the whole of this window, like you guys have said. And I'm not the guy that's against Paratici. I generally, when he came in, I've supported Paratici for a long time, but it comes to a point where he's not doing enough for the club that as we was promised. And although he's an improvement from Steve Hitchen, being an improvement on Steve Hitchen, it wasn't hard.
Yeah, not hard. Yeah, low level.
You have to understand how hard
the way that I look at it is what we was like with Michael Edwards, and that was top recruitment, bringing in young players, cheap players, sort of what Brighton are doing right now, where they just get all these little gems for cheap prices, and you just see them explode. And I wouldn't mind if we were recruiting that way, but we bring in expensive players, we bring in cheap players, and it's just a bag of shit a lot of the time. Our recruitment and our scouting has just been poor, and that is the biggest problem.
But here's my point with Steve Hitchen or with Paratici, right? Now, we can all sit here and pretend he doesn't have to operate under the same constraints Steve Hitchen did, but he does. He does. A leopard doesn't change his spots just because you're bringing another guy, you know? So he still has to operate under the same constraints. Now, Steve Hitchen brought in Joe Rodon. Paratici didn't have the money for Romero, but he went and got him in here. You know, you look at okay, right wing back maybe hasn't been his greatest signings or whatever else, but you look, Steve Hitchen pissed about. Paratici signings have been better than what Steve Hitchen has done, and at the end of the day, they work under the same constraints. But the difference is Paratici knows how to negotiate. Look at the Kulu deal, look at the Bentancur deal, the Romero deal, stuff like that. He knows how to negotiate. The fact of the matter is, Paratici could get in players from the likes of Juventus and stuff like that, where Steve Hitchen failed. And a lot of this mess, and we're still in this mess because of a lot of the recruitment by Steve Hitchen. Now we're stuck in a position where we're left with a crop of players that don't want to go anywhere. We've seen that in Sanchez's case because the amount of money they're on and the fee that Tottenham are looking to recruit back for compared to the amount of money we paid for them. You can't put all of that on Paratici. Yes, he's supposed to be this messiah and everything else, but he's not a miracle worker. You know,
I'm not sure people are putting everything on him, Dave. I think it's more a case of like, if he's been told to fuck off into the distance, and Adam, I'll let Dave finish and I'll bring you in, mate. If like he's been tasked to do this rebuilding job, but actually he's really being asked to do more of the shit behind the scenes around scouting and employment and all that stuff, right? And then don't even get me started on this narrative now that we've suddenly lost out on this. I've seen other channels talking about like, oh my God, how bad it is that we lost that fellow who's in charge of youth recruitment who's going to Arsenal. Like suddenly that's a big deal. Yet the same people that were pissed off, who are saying that now, were pissed off about Tottenham's inability to develop anybody from the youth system. Like, don't get me started on the hypocrisy on that one. But if Paratici's really just being sidelined into that shit and that Daniel Levy still got his grubby paws over everything else, like, is that what you're saying that's happening, Dave?
Well, I mean, all you got to do is look at this January transfer window compared to maybe transfer windows gone by. Danjuma, look, you could argue that maybe it's structured in a way that Paratici would like, but the fact that Paratici supposedly isn't anywhere near these sporting negotiations, the fact that we haven't seen him all January, the only clip we got at him was when Sky Sports blew his cover to the feds and said that he was at the Fulham game. But that's all we've seen of him. That's all we've seen of him. But Sean, you know this as well as I do. It's a classic tactic. As soon as someone's in the firing line for something, they take them out of the firing line. You just put them to the side. You bench them. You shelve them. And that's what's happening at Tottenham right now. They don't want Paratici near anything because they know that they're going to be under investigation. If you think that people aren't looking at the deals that he's done at Tottenham, you know, to see if he's doing the same as at Juve, you're sadly mistaken.
Of course he's being scrutinized everywhere. But if that is the case, and I take what you're saying, and Adam, I'm going to bring you in here. But before I do, and first of all, I'm going to say to Brazen Ball with a super chat, big up my man. He's saying, glory, glory, Daniel Levy, 14 years, 1 trophy. Come on, you Spurs. I'm taking it. I understand. I can read between the lines, but your message is there, my man. But I really appreciate the super chat, Mr. Ball. And you are are you a muscly man? You are. You got some shoulders on you in that. You got some shoulders on you there, bro. And I got one from Frankly Tottenham. What's happening, Frankly Tottenham? Franco boy, how you doing, mate? He says Porro means top 4. No Porro means no top 4. Are we that little cat from the movie The Matrix? Deja vu, deja vu. So listen, Adam, I'm going to hand over to you, Frankly Tottenham. Thank you so much. I'm going to let Adam respond to you on that. Oh, go on. Yeah, go on.
Jimmy Costco's comments there at the very last one. He says, David always goes on about the defence, yet loves Paratici, who, by the way, spent 60 million in the transfer budget on Richarlison, who is no better than Lucas Moura. Now, look, we've all seen the reports about Harry Kane. We've all seen the reports about Harry Kane coming out that they're not too sure if he's going to sign a new contract. It's been an issue for 7-8 years having an adequate backup to Harry Kane. They signed Richarlison because they knew Harry Kane's contract was being run down and that this summer would be D-Day. So that if he does leave, Spurs fans won't be in an uproar because you've got Richarlison. Now, look, that's backfired a little. He's been injured a lot of this season and everything else. But you've got to understand why they signed Richarlison in the first place, because they knew they're at risk of leaving Harry Kane. And once he goes, they have to have that replacement there. But, Jimmy, my point is, we needed strikers. We needed midfielders. We needed wingers. We needed goalkeeper. We needed centre back, right wing back, left wing back. You're never going to get everything done in one window. I told everybody this last summer. You're still going to come out the window looking for things in every position. If you think we were going to get everything done, then I understand why you're disappointed, Jimmy. But at the end of the day, you've also got to understand it. Not everything was going to get done. And if you want to aim, Richarlison at Paratici and say, well, we could have spent that on centre backs, but then you'd be the same person if you signed centre backs going, where's that backup striker? But you have to understand the amount of mess that we were in, the amount of how many players we really had to bring in here. And we still have to bring in more. You've got to try and understand how big the problem was to understand it.
I agree. I agree with your retort, Dave. I also agree with the point that Jimmy Costco's making, because I personally think that Richarlison was the wrong money. It was poor money spent on a player that I didn't think was ever going to. I said it day one. You can check the record. I always thought it was an absolute shit show. I think he will be a shit show. It will prove to be yet another. Tottenham have only ever spent more than 50 million quid on two players. One of them was Ndombele. The other one was Richarlison. I think both of them are going to go down as shit show signings. What I did, I'm not sure what we were saying. What was I saying just before that happened? I was going to give Adam the floor about I forget now. Adam, listen, Adam, I'll let you take. Go with where you want to go, but leave if you can, Adam. I know you're here for the next hour with me, so but give 2 minutes more because I go for it for the next 2 minutes. But I need to give Jordan the last 2 minutes of his word before he's got to jump off and go to see Football Terrace, and I'm going to give him a chance to plug his channel. I forget where we were going before the Jimmy Costco thing came up. That's the state of my memory. So I'll let you take over. See if you can put it together for me.
Sure, no worries. I mean, I definitely would love to jump in on the Paratici thing, just because I do think
Paratici. That was it. Paratici. There you go. Yeah.
I think the comment that was made. I think it's Sean. You were saying that if he's incapable of doing his job at the moment under the pressure he's under, then maybe we should just get rid of him. But to be perfectly honest, in those kind of scenarios, I try and imagine myself, being in his position, and it's like if there's a case where he's potentially, obviously we know now that what's happened is he's been told that he can't operate inside Italy for 2.5 years. It's possible that could have been extended to everywhere. Can't do his job anywhere whatsoever. I don't know the latest details on that, but if I'm in a scenario where my job is threatened, I probably lead a particularly lavish lifestyle, given that my salary is quite high, and then you're also talking about potential worse legal punishments potentially, depending on what the judge's determination is. I'm not sure I could perform any kind of job whatsoever. I'm not sure I'd find it very easy to get out of bed in the morning. And now I know that's on him if there are some dodgy dealings having been done, but I literally when you're weighing up the current situation where he seems to be missing, which I wouldn't want cameras on me if I was under that kind of stress, under that kind of pressure. And then you weigh that up with, I don't understand how people are forget the whole Don thing. It's a silly argument whether or not he's a Don. What the fuck does Don mean anyway? It's what literally needs to be evaluated is what the quality and caliber of players that have been brought in since he's joined us. So you've got Romero, who is, as long as he doesn't decide he wants to move on to greener pastures at some stage in the future, he's a young elite player in our squad.
Adam, so sorry, mate. Listen, I want to come back to you in 3 seconds. George has got to leave. He's got to do another show. So sorry. Press pause, mate, because I'm going to come back to it. It's a great point, George. Thank you so much for jumping on, man. You made your debut. You smashed it as always. Love you to pieces. Let everybody know where they can find you, and then tell them where you're going now if they want to go and check you out. Don't leave this show, but in the future.
Yes, no, for sure. Well, thank you very much for having me. I'll happily come back anytime. It was a great show. You can just catch me down below here, whatever it is, at _4George on most platforms, and Durag Diaries on TikTok, where I do my game reviews and just reactions. Or you just catch me live every now and then. But yeah, I'm just going to be heading over to the terrace, probably where many of you guys know. You see Sean sometimes and just see a bunch of other Tottenham fans react to other games. You'll catch me there every week. And yeah, once you're done watching this, you can head over there. And you can read it. Well, thank you
George, mate, absolute legend, buddy. I'll speak to you on the WhatsApp afterwards, man. You smashed it. Thank you so much, my man.
Thank you very much, guys. Cheers. Nice to meet you all.
Cheers, buddy. Sorry, Adam, mate. Mate, sorry, I had to just let the guy
No,
leave.
that's
He's on the time schedule. Get back into what you were saying, my man. I was, all ears.
Yeah, no, it's just I'll actually try and condense because I probably would have ended up going on a little bit too much of a rant. But the fact is, we got Romero win, we got Basuma, Bentancur, the three quality players that have revitalized our team. That you absolutely, nobody can deny that Spurs are a significantly greater opposition for any opponent when those three players are fit and firing, and we wouldn't have even gotten top four last season without them. And then when you look at the signings of the summer, it's not, to be honest with you, so you've got with Richarlison. To be honest, the fact that he's still getting, initially he was played out of position. He was being played on the right when clearly he's better down on the left or down the middle. And then we saw how he played for Brazil during the World Cup. He's a phenomenal player. He's an incredible striker. You play him in the right position and give him the right kind of service, and he will absolutely bang goals away. It's just he hasn't been given that opportunity so far. And then he was injured after the World Cup, so we haven't seen the best of Richarlison yet. I do not believe for 1 second that he's going to end up being a dud. Not at all. Then Basuma, it seems to be struggling coming in and adapting to the team, adapting to Conte's style. But we know how good Basuma is as well. When you think about even just the fact that when these guys were being purchased, everyone was foaming at the mouth at the prospect of having Richarlison and Basuma in the team. Now, because one of them was played out of position and then got injured, he hasn't been able to show how good he is. Basuma is taking time to bed in. He hasn't been able to show how good he is. But when you look at the first three players I mentioned in Romero, Bentancur, and Kulusevski, and then you've got Richarlison and Basuma, and then Perisic has been absolutely fantastic since he come in as well. He has the odd howler in defense, from time to time, but he's gotten a significant amount of assists, and we know that he's a top class player. How are we looking at all these guys? Do people just forget? Have we got amnesia when it comes to the specific incredible players that Paratici has brought in compared to the transfer window after transfer window after transfer window of dross or nothing? I don't understand how people can be looking at Paratici and complaining. The only thing that's bothersome for me at the moment is we see him less than we did when he first joined us. But he's got shit going on, so what can you do?
Spot on, absolutely spot on.
I agree 100%. I got a couple of super chats
on my Paratici train. He's better at doing it than I am.
Let me get to a couple of super chats, guys, so we can catch up. Joey's in the house. What's happening, Joracle? Good to see you, my man. He says only Levy could have fucked up triggering a release clause. Well, listen, I'm not listening to this release clause bollocks because no one fucking knows. No one knows. Everyone is engendering their pre-established narratives based on this idea that they understand the release clause. Paul O'Keefe said one thing. Somebody else, I think it was Dan Kilpatrick, said the other 2 days earlier. No one knows what the story around the release clause is. But listen, if you want to have a problem with Daniel Levy, it's very easy to have it right now. I got a question for the panel from Paddy Hartnett. What's happening, Paddy? He says, do you think failings in this window will turn a lot more fans in the way of the ENIC out camp? I'll let you go, Dan. Dave. What's your stance on this one, my man?
Yeah, look, I said it earlier. I think, I even think today you'll probably see more bodies at the protest tomorrow than what you did last week. But it definitely result to more bodies getting out for the protest at the City game as well. No doubt about it. Fans aren't going to sit by and idly watch their club struggle when they know that the board are in a position to be able to do it, to be able to bring in players to help the situation. Plus, with everything that's going on with Conte, the fear of losing Harry Kane, of course it's going to get more Spurs fans out there, 100%. Look, like I said, I do think the deal will be announced tomorrow, and it will be announced to try and overshadow the protest, in my opinion. But I definitely do think it will turn a lot more people to the ENIC out, Levy out camp, 100%. I wouldn't say it would be that message they'll get behind. It could be a message of change or something else like that. But you can already see it this January. There's so many people out there that are just sick of the same old shit happening. They just want to see some sort of change, even if it's not as strong as Levy out, ENIC out. Fans want change, and you can see that many fans calling for it, many platforms calling for it. So yeah, 100%. I do think it will lead to that.
Adam?
I think it really depends on I fear for the mentality of the fandom, because so far too frequently we see people getting up in arms over things when we have far too little information. And the way things are at the minute, it's like people, I don't understand how people can immediately assume, okay, the Porro deal, let's say the Porro deal falls through, how they can immediately assume that everything is Daniel Levy's fault. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me at all, considering that everything seemed to have been negotiated. It does take time for these kind of negotiations to get done when you're talking about that kind of money. I don't understand the amount of fans out there who are like, just pay the money, just pay the money. You wouldn't know what to do with £1 million if you had it, never mind 40, 50, right? So like when these negotiations are being done, when we're not just talking about how much money have we got to spend on players. We have an infrastructure to maintain. There's all sorts of things. You got to keep the lights on in a fucking stadium as well. Excuse my French. So like, there's so many different things that you got to think about, and we don't have access to the budget. We don't have access to the accounts. If we could see every last little detail, then fair enough, make up your mind about the way we're spending our money. But if they're haggling over this, that, and the other, because they like what we're hearing now as well is that you can't get if we have to pay that extra fee that they're looking for, the extra 2 or whatever million it is, 3 million for Pedro Poro, then we can't get a centre back this window. And they were looking at getting Hincapie in this window as well, right? These are the fine margins that they're working with, and so. If we're ending up in a position where we're up in arms over what the company decides to do with millions, I think it's ridiculous. People just don't realize how the economic situation within the club works.
I think.
And then, sorry,
I was just going to say, just quickly on that point, Adam. I think, look, obviously you're going to have to wait for the finances to come out to deem whether Tottenham do have the money to go and pay that money or whether they don't. I think you'll know as soon as the finances sort of come out. It'll give you a broad view of whether you have the money to go and do it or whether it does have to be negotiated the way we have done. But I think where the frustration comes from, Adam, is the fact that it's taken 30 days to be able to get a deal done. Bear in mind, he also had a period over the World Cup where they could have contacted Sporting if he's number one to try and get some sort of deal ironed out before the January transfer window opened. So in effect, they've actually had nearly 2 months to be able to get this sort of deal done and negotiated. And when you see, and look, I'm not going to say I want to stack like Chelsea because what they're doing is insane, but it doesn't help the fact that Arsenal are top of the league, right? They're still back in Arteta this January. They've got Trossard over the deal where we pissed about with it. You look at Chelsea, they got Wen and Hydrat Mudryk. They've stumped up 120 million release clause for Enzo Fernandez today. And it doesn't help that you see our rivals going out and getting their deals done, and they don't seem to have the long, protracted negotiations the way Tottenham do. And I think that's where a lot of the fans' angers come from, because this is a deal that could have been done, like I said, with the month over the World Cup, that we could have had him in here January, and we could have had him for Arsenal, we could have had him for Man City. And then I think most fans were excited that we got the here we go last night. But then you wake up this morning, it's like, I get today you can't really blame on the club, but this deal should have been done a long time ago. It should never have got to the point where Sporting know that they can use everything that's going on around Daniel Levy and the board and the pressure that's on them, and the fact that they have to get this deal done to appease fans. They've left themselves open by leaving it so late for Sporting to be able to use that, to be able to extort more and more money out of us. So I think that's where the frustrations come from. But I do hear you. I do think you raised some good points. I do hear you. I just wanted to maybe, shed some light on where the frustrations come from. Although you know anyway, you're in all the group chats.
I have no issue with people saying that we shouldn't be taking as long as everybody else is taking. But we also, at least we seem to be making decisions with a strategy. And the only other club that you see doing that in the big boys at the moment are Arsenal. They seem to be filling in the holes exactly where they need them. But you look at the likes of Chelsea, they're just throwing money around the place madmen, right? Liverpool aren't spending money whatsoever. So
Chelsea have spent. I'm going to bring beautiful man with a bun, Danny Kiriakou, in on this one, because I know you feel differently to how, certainly traditionally, how Danny how I feel and how Adam feels. I know you're somewhere in between Oh, Dave's in between how you feel and how we feel. Dave's sort of somewhere here. I'm sort of here, and Adam's here, and you're way over here. But welcome to the show, first and foremost. I hope you're happy and healthy. But I know you're also a guy that knows a guy who knows a guy, right? So, like, let us know, mate. Like, introduce to us the, Danny Kiri Manu or whatever the phrase is. Is it happening, bro? Are we on board? Are we getting it done? Because you were saying that it was getting done, and I'm on board with you that it's getting done. Are you hearing new sides? What are you hearing?
No, so look, the one thing I always said from the people that I speak to who know the people in CAA, know the bosses, who has got agents who are in that company, and the one thing they've always stood by is the deal will get done. Obviously, the problem that we had was the spanner in the works, which from what I was told last night, there was a few terms that had changed from Sporting's end. So this is where I'm going to clear up how I feel about this Porro deal. And I'm going to be very balanced here, right? I'm going to be honest, right? Now, you know how I feel about Daniel Levy, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's arguments towards what I'm going to say about for the Levy out group or movement, whatever you want to call it, right? But there's also an element of like kind of what Adam was saying is you have to understand a little bit of the reality of how football deals work, right? So what I understand is that essentially what's kind of happened is that that Levy is being levied in a funny way, right? Because Levy tends to obviously always move goalposts and stuff like that. Now I was told by two different people that look, it's as it stands, it's still not off the table, still not collapsed, right? It's still on the table, and they're still trying to finalize the little hits, the little bits or little hits that kind of have changed overnight, right? The kind of terms that have been changed. Now, from a perspective of is that Levy's fault, you can say it's Levy's fault because maybe we could have done the deal in the first 2 weeks of the window, right? But you could also say that I know the way they've tried to do it is they've tried to do it so they pay as little money as possible and not activate the release clause, right? Now, the way I see it is that they have moved the goalposts, right? So we can't blame Daniel Levy for that particular thing of the goalpost being moved, right? From last night, because there was an agreement already there, right? The agreement was there. It was ready to be done. He was due today at the training ground to have his medical. But because of the stuff that changed last night, that all changed, right? Now, from what I've been told, so the other guy who I speak to, do you know what his response to me was? Don't get your knickers in a twist. That's what he said, right? He goes, don't get your knickers in a twist.
Danny Nicaracu, you mean?
don't worry, right? So
see what I did there?
Yeah, it was good.
Okay,
all I'm saying is that we have to just wait until the actual deadline day, until we hear it's like completely collapsed from other sources. Now, the most reliable source I've seen from these deals has been Romano, because there has been conflicting reports from other people, and everything I've been told lines up quite well with what Romano's been told. So that's how I'm going to go on it. The player definitely was not at training today. That's 100%.
Yeah,
right. He wasn't. At training.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've got the link. I've got the link in front of me.
Yeah, so there was some conflicting reports saying that he wasn't at training. He was at training and all this and that, but that's not true. He was not at training, right? Now I still think the deal's going to get done, and this is where. So my whole argument about this is the fact that, like what David was saying earlier, right? I think the fact the fans have the issue, right? Where their issue is the fact that we've taken 30 days to get this deal done. Now, I can also tell you, I know Dave was saying we could have spoke to him before, but the other thing was that Sporting told Spurs that they're not going to speak to any club about Porro or any player until the transfer window opened. So they tried to have initial discussions beforehand, but they were told, no, not happening, not until the January window opens. So then you obviously have to start having your discussions from the beginning of the window, right? So maybe that plays a part into the way Tottenham do their negotiations, where they really try and drill down the price as much as they can to give them the best deal financially possible, right? And also to, rather than having to pay an activation clause in a contract, just say, for example, it's 45 million, right? The club wouldn't want to pay 45 million in one go. Like most clubs don't tend to do that, right?
No one does that.
Yeah, no one does.
No one's ever going to do that.
No, even though, right, we have got the money to do it. Yeah,
But no one's ever going to do it, Danny. It's
no,
just
but
not.
listen,
It's
let me
how
finish.
business works, mate.
Sean,
Yes.
let me finish.
Okay. I'll let you land.
Right. So as we know, most clubs don't tend to do that, right? No one seems to do the negotiations where they pay in full, right? So I understand that, but obviously, what's the issue is that they've dragged it out all this time to try and reduce the cost that they are paying, so that when they do come to the agreement, which they already did, obviously now the goalposts have moved again slightly, right? So that's where the frustration, I think, is, where people can blame Levy for not getting this done sooner. You could there's definitely an argument there, but on this particular case, I think it is partly both parties that have got the problem. It's Sporting's end because they've moved the goalpost a bit, and you've got Levy's end for not tying up the deal sooner, right? So that's where I kind of sit with it. I still think the deal will go through. I just personally think there's too much riding on the backlash that he knows that's going to come from it if this deal does not get over the line. I think he's too stupid, right, to not get this deal done, in my opinion. And I think he's got to be the dumbest person, right, in football if this deal does not get over the line. Just in my opinion, right?
To a degree.
No, Sean,
but,
the backlash.
No, I hear you. I said it earlier. I agree with you. I said it earlier that the reason, and I think Dave said it earlier as well, like the Sporting chairman, who is known, I didn't know this until today, but he's known as like the Portuguese version of Daniel Levy, right? He's an absolute piss take chairman who wants to gouge every last blood, every drop of blood from the stone that he possibly can. And he's fully aware that Tottenham are in the mud if we don't get this done. And so he's going to make it as difficult as possible. I agree with you that it's going to get done. But, you know, I also think that there is at some point a line in the sand. Adam, I'm going to come to you. Like, is there a line in the sand where if this guy, like, how should Daniel Levy proceed? Right? He is usually the guy that wants to get the blood from the stone. Now he's the stone, not the blood drawer. Like, is there a moment where Daniel Levy, it's 6:15 on Monday, he's got 30 hours to figure something out. If he gets Porro done and that's it, I think that most Tottenham fans would be happy enough with Danjuma. We haven't even spoken about Danjuma. And I still want to also get to the treatment of Brian Gil, because for me, for what it's worth, like, I got a fucking problem with the way that Tottenham Hotspur have treated Brian Gil in the last 2 years. And I want to talk about that. But we'll get to that in a moment. But if Brian Gil does go and Danjuma's in and that's it, there's a problem for Daniel Levy. However, whatever stance you have, me being where I am, Adam where you are, Dave, you, Danny the other side, whatever, there is, Daniel Levy knows that he can't let this one just escape. But he also can't be taken advantage of to the point of piss take from whoever his equivalent is. I don't even know who the guy is at Sporting. So,
Jack says Joe Levy.
It depends on how much the piss take is, though, in fairness. Like,
that's what I mean. Right? So is there a line in the sand where Daniel Levy should say, look, I'm going to send over one more fax, one more email, PDF document that says 52 million euros, right? And it's done. Like, you wanted 48. Now you're pissed off about the 3 million that was in admin fees or whatever the story is. We don't know what the story is, but if that's what it is, here's 52 million. Shut the fuck up. Sign the fucking deal. Send the boy on a fucking plane because you're pissing me off. And that has to be done by 8 o'clock. And if it's not done by 8 o'clock, Daniel Levy needs to say, all right, fuck you. And then says, Paratici, go and speak to your boys at Inter Milan and go and get me De Vrij and Dumfries, or like go and sort something out, because surely... Happen. Or maybe not that won't happen. You don't understand what I'm saying, right? But
I don't think it'll be anything. Unless, again, it's one of those things where we're only privy to like the tip of the iceberg. There's so much going on at the club that we have no fucking clue about, not only because we're not in the boardroom, but it's also because the shite that is being espoused. But like, the media are worse today than they have ever been at just at talking crap just so they get clicks, just so they can build up.
Adam, that is spot on what you just said about the media, right?
100%.
Trust me, what's in the media is a load of bollocks. It's all bullshit.
All the time.
The only person, right, from this Porro deal, I'm telling you, the only person I've trusted throughout who's been on similar
Romano.
to the stuff that I've heard is Romano. That is
Romano.
it.
Yeah,
No other journalist.
But he's
right?
a Tommy Tappin. Everything
But no,
Romano
but
says. But Romano, Danny, this is what I said to you the other night on Friday night, right? No disrespect to you. I 100% bow down to the fact that you know people that can illuminate and you onto things that may be happening that the rest of us don't know. But for
I
what
think
it's
Danny's full of
worth,
shit.
for what he's not full of shit, right?
I'm
He's
joking.
reporting what he knows. But for what it's worth, like I've never seen anything being said by anybody, Romano included, that is not already known publicly. There's so few people out there that drop a bombshell that are the first ones to say it that come true. And if you're saying that the only person you trust on this is Romano, Romano is the king of Tommy Tappins, right? He waits until the deal is done, and then he's like the guy who waits for somebody else to putt the ball an inch inside the cup, and then goes, "Leave it with me. I'll just fucking see this one off."
And
when
even
it's
at
done.
that, twice in 1 week now, he's given the here we go, and he's been wrong. So, like, even with him, I do not trust the media whatsoever until we've said this, everyone says this every so often, and yet we still forget it. Again, it's this fucking amnesia shit that goes on in the fandom, is that you do not believe anything until someone is holding up the shirt. That is it. That is the only proof you have that we now have a player at the club. End of story. But as far as as Levy is concerned, like, he doesn't really have much of an option right now because of the tetchiness of the fan base. We have seen, irrespective of whether you agree with it or not, we have seen the fans chanting Levy out at the stadium in pretty, pretty heated and pretty high voices. We've heard the pundits in the stadium saying, it's getting pretty intense. Levy cannot, irrespective of the fact that I don't believe it, that if the Porro deal falls through, that it's entirely his fault. He has no choice but to throw money at the situation now. He really doesn't. He's left himself in a position where, as Danny puts it, Levy has gotten levied. So he needs to accept now and swallow a little bit of pride and go, right, there's nothing that I can do at this point. These guys are playing hardball the way that I normally do. In this particular occasion, I'm going to have to loosen the purse strings that little bit more and forget any other idea of bringing anyone else in this window. If we have Danjuma and Porro, that will do till the summer, and then everyone will stay.
Do you know, Adam?
Danny, before you jump in, I got to take my little moment here. There's 390 people watching on YouTube. Guys, do me a fucking favor. Smash the like up. It takes nothing from you. It's free to do it. Show some support for the channel. Show some love towards the boys that are on the show this evening. We're on 160 likes. There's 400 of you nearly watching. And that means that a bunch of you that have just joined, like, we could get up to 300 likes if you all just did me a solid. I'm not begging. Please. Dave, come in. You were going to come in there, mate. Oh, sorry, Danny was going to say something.
Sorry, Dave. I'll let you come in as
well. No,
I just want to add to that point. I think what Adam just said. Now, Adam, a lot of things sometimes we do agree on quite a few things. Sometimes we disagree on things, right?
Yeah. You're other sides of a very similar bowl.
On this particular thing you just said, I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's basically kind of the stuff that I've been told, what I've kind of thought on the whole situation. I think Daniel Levy at the moment is in a corner, right? And he cannot fuck this up. He's got to now take the hit because, like we were saying, he has been levied, right? They've moved the goalposts a bit. They have agreed. So when Romano put "here we go," that was right. It was all the deal was agreed on Tuesday, mate. It was all agreed, right? But obviously things have changed. Then the first thing they wanted was to play him in the final. So then they said okay, and now it's obviously some other little things have changed, right? So look, I think Daniel Levy has to take if this deal doesn't go off. I think there's going to be so much shit storm from the fan base. I think you'll probably hear it in the stadium as well more. I just think it won't be a nice place for the fans. It will probably be a lot more toxic on social media as well. And I think he cannot fuck this up. He just can't. He can't afford to. He really can't. And I completely agree. And I think a good point you mentioned as well. Pardon me, about Adam, about how I think this has kind of changed a lot of things about who else we bring in now. Look, I know that we've obviously heard about the Hincapié stuff. The stuff that I know is that look, we are trying, but it's very unlikely it's going to happen. As far as I've been told that what they value him at is double what Tottenham are prepared to pay for him. So Tottenham,
Yeah, 70 million apparently for him.
No, it's not that much.
Which is madness, right?
It's not that much. It's not. So
he's got 3 years left on his contract. They're not in a rush to sell him.
Yeah, but it's not that much. What I've been told is around the 50 million euro mark.
I heard 50 as well, but like
we've been. I think we offered. I think there's one or two articles.
We've offered 25.
Yeah, something like that, right? And I think that is pretty. I think it's fairly accurate. But apparently they want double what we've offered, right? And the one thing that I was told was that we don't see him as a player who is instantly going to improve the back line in terms of, look, he's a good player. I think he will improve the back line, but he's a player who's quite raw and he's going to need time to bed in. And I don't think Tottenham can justify taking a gamble, especially if they don't know if the manager's going to be there in the summer, on a player who's young and might not fulfill his potential, right? So if you go and drop 50 million euros on a youngster who's not like ready to go into that team and really elevate our defense, then it's a big gamble, right? So I understand it. I perfectly understand it. And look, as much as I would love to see someone like him come in, I would prefer other players. I think in that position, I think there's better players.
Would you take Harry Maguire on a 6-month?
I would take Harry Maguire rather than Dyer. For sure, I would. Look,
no, but I'm saying a 6-month loan. I'm saying a 6-month loan. If you can't get the deal done now because it's too late, right?
Yeah, beggars can't be.
Harry Maguire on a 6-month loan.
People
improves us.
Sean, do you know what I want to say to this? Right, people who turn their nose up at Harry Maguire, right, but yet accept Danjuma is the epitome of contradiction, right? Because
okay, well, if that's where you want to go with this, if that's what, Danny, 1 second. If that's where you want to go with Danjuma, because I do want to talk about Danjuma. I want to get all of your points on this. Right. I want to get David as well, and I also want to move on to the Brian Gil thing. But just it's a perfect opportunity if you don't mind, because you just said it. It's a press pause for 10 seconds. Let me get through some of these super chats.
Sure.
Jory with the $6 one. Big up, Jozza. Love you, man. Shame you couldn't come on. Come on again. You're always welcome on this show. He's saying, we know that the clause was there. Trigger it the first day of the window, and it's done. I'm not sure. Oh shit, my lights have collapsed. I'm gonna.
I'll take over for you. I have access here. I'll take over while you fix your lights.
Okay, you figured that one out, and then also you can take over the Moondog. You can see the starred ones, right?
Yeah. I see them.
Give me 2 seconds. Cheers, Dave.
Jerry says we know the clause was there. Trigger it first day of the window, and it's done. #Levy out. Look, there's been a lot of conflicting reports on the clause, Jerry, but look, my point is, you've got to try and get this deal done earlier in the window, because it's basically left us open to what we're seeing today. That's the harsh reality of not getting this deal done early, and that's the harsh reality of the protracted negotiations, that it's left ourselves open to being extorted. So you've only got us to blame on this one, in my opinion, my man. But big up, Jory. Then we've got Moondog. Says, good evening, lads. Big on up. No, that one was already done, I believe. 1 second, I've gone backwards.
Right down the bottom. Down the bottom.
So we've got Moondog. He says, Richie is not a great striker. He is average. Look, he's not a world beater. This season, I think it's hard to judge him because he's been played out of position, and he's been injured an awful lot. I
single-handedly kept Everton up last season.
Yeah, single-handedly.
And scored 2 fucking worldies at the World Cup. Come on.
Exactly. Look, for me, I think this is a player that I agree with Adam. I think he will come good, and I think Spurs fans will enjoy him eventually. Look, I think we were spoiled with the likes of banter and Kulu coming in here, hitting the ground running the way they did, and we were expecting every single signing to do that, and maybe forgot that. Look, some signings do take a period of time to adapt. There are other things going on that maybe lead to them not being able to hit the ground running the way Richarlison hasn't been able to do. So, but I do think, Moondog, that we will be celebrating Richarlison for sure in a year or two to come.
Fact.
Sean, back to you. You're back now.
Oh, appreciate it.
Can I just add to this point about
Yes,
Richie?
you can. Yes, you can.
I'm kind of a little bit with where Sean is at on Richarlison. I kind of think that he we all know he hasn't had the chance up front, right? So the club promised him that he was going to get minutes up front. He's not he's happy to do his part for the club to help them where he can, but he's not essentially happy playing on the wing because he knows, especially on the right wing,
which chances like the other day though,
well,
and he's been injured.
No, yeah, of course, yeah, and that's another thing, right?
Yeah, of course.
And
Injuries have been a massive problem for him.
Yeah, it's been a massive problem, right? And I'll be honest with you, I do blame Conte to an extent on why he's been rushed back, because I know for a fact that the medical team on Richarlison, they told him that he was not ready to play in that Arsenal game and he shouldn't have played, right? He was only there for a particular reason, just to be on the bench, right? But he played 20 minutes and he aggravated his injury and got a slight knock from that game. And since then, he's been trying to recover from it and it hasn't been able to. So look, hopefully he's back in a week or so, maybe sooner. I hope so, because we need him. But again, unless he's played in his position up front, it's going to be very hard to judge Richarlison. Look, I think he's a good player on the left wing. I think I've seen more from him on the left wing than I have on the right wing. I think
he's been absolutely shocking when he's played on the left.
See, I think he's shown more on the left wing than he has on the right wing. I'm not saying he's been
first
great.
touch has been shit. Every time the ball's come into him, it's been poached.
If you go back to when he was
and when he plays on the right, Danny, quickly, when he plays on the right hand side, not so much on the left, when he plays on the right, his first thought is always to do a nutmeg or some little clever little trick.
He can't play on the right for sure.
It drives me up the fucking wall.
Right, he can't play on the right. But what I've seen on the left of him, right, when I have seen him come on as a substitute, he's done all right. He's not like lit up the world or anything. He's done okay, right? He's got, I think, like 1 or 2 assists from that left hand side. He got that great one against Nottingham Forest with the outside of the foot from the left hand side where he beat a player and then he got the ball back and then he curled it in outside of the boot. And you've seen a little bit more attacking kind of presence from him from the left. But I think we all know where his game is, and his game is essentially as a striker, right? The only issue I have with Richarlison, where I think that he might not succeed at Spurs, and I think the only way he will succeed, you have to play creative players around him. He needs the ball to his feet, unfortunately. He's not a Harry Kane who can make something out of nothing on a lot of occasions, right? From what I saw at Everton. I think he needs, if you look at him when he plays for Brazil, look at the players he's got around him. He's got class. He's got in midfield, he's got Casemiro, Guimaraes, Paqueta, all these type of players, right, who are top players. You've got on the wing, he plays with Neymar, he plays with Rafinha. He's just got class players around him, right? And I think he can score goals, but he does need the players around him. And say, for example, Kane leaves, right? Just hypothetically, if Kane leaves, he's going to need like an Odegaard or an Eriksen type of player to really help him. And I think that's when you'll see him really show his level. I think until we get that at Spurs, I think it'll be very difficult for him to kind of really fulfill what maybe become a good player, a really good player for us.
I disagree. I disagree. Oh, sorry, Adam. Go on. Sorry, go on,
Adam. Whoever. Yeah, go on.
Say, like, even if we do end up, if we're blessed and we end up having a situation where the Porro deal goes through, we know what Porro is like for being a creative player and setting up the strikers. We know that we've got Destiny Doji coming in now in the summer or after the summer. So like by Richarlison may not get a wealth of goals in his first year, same way Basuma is not hitting the ground running either. But by next season, after they've had another pre-season together, when they've got new players coming in and helping them in the creative aspect, because we know that's where we're suffering in terms of actually deploying the ball forward. I think that will change the way Richarlison operates entirely, because he is an out-and-out number 9. I can't stand when people keep saying that himself and Kane are there to be. He's there to be Kane's understudy. We should be playing a 4-2-3-1, and it should be Son, Kane, and Kulusevski playing in the 3, and then Richarlison should be way up front on his own. And as long as he's able to be onside half the time, he'll be banging goals away like no one's business. And having Udogie and Porro in the side will be the difference.
That's crucial to what I was going to say. Look, what Richarlison is best at is exactly what he done against Marseille, and it's exactly what he done at Everton. Get the ball out wide, get the balls in the box, let him go and meet you where he's at, let him attack it. Yeah. That's why we signed him. Last season against Brighton and Brentford, when we had a complete different problem, when teams were sitting back, we needed that player. We needed the wing backs that can beat their man, because that's where the space is, and get the balls in the box. And we need someone to go and attack it like Richarlison. Or when you're chasing the game, you bring Richarlison on, put him up front with Kane, put balls in the box, let him go and win them. That's what he was so good at Everton. That's where he's got his 2 goals against Marseille in the Champions League this season. That's exactly what he is. Ball to feet, he's not your guy. We've seen that. How many times the ball come into his feet and it's been taken off from attacks have collapsed, broken down, heavy touches, etc. It's not his game. His game, get the ball out wide, get it in the box, let him get after it. That's where he gets a lot of his goals.
Not that I want to spend, because I got to go. I know we've got 25 minutes left. I do. There's so much I want to discuss on that and debate you on that one, because I personally feel like, if he's brought in to do that 9 role, but Tottenham don't even play in that style when we have a 9 in Harry Kane anyway. Even if Richarlison's on the pitch, Richarlison's never the number 9. Like, for me, I don't know. Maybe it would have worked out better for Richarlison had Harry Kane had his usual ankle injury or whatever. But if we're sitting there waiting for Harry Kane to be injured, like, I think that's a really weird situation to have, because right now Tottenham do never, like, we don't play in a situation where when the wing backs do whip balls in, there's anybody ever there. There's no one there to meet him. So I think it's a bad fit. I think it's square pegs and round holes, personally.
The reason why the strikers don't get into the box anymore, Sean, is because
they have to come deep.
They know it's not. They know we're checking back inside every single time, proven against Preston the other day.
Yeah, Doherty and
we were discussing it. It's if you were a striker, why would you continue to make them 10, 15-yard long busting sprints to get in there every time when they're just pulling the ball back inside? After a while, you go, what's the fucking point?
I agree, but then I agree with that. But then that extends the argument of saying, if Richarlison plays a certain way and you've taken up 50 million quid of your budget that could have been spent elsewhere, that was spent on somebody in a position that didn't really require strengthening as a priority ahead of other areas that were clearly weaker.
They knew they'd find it hard to tie Harry Kane down to a new contract. They had to have a player in here just in case he leaves. They had to. That's why we went and spent the money.
Okay, so what you're arguing. So what I'm not saying it's wrong, but what you're arguing for now, this could take another 2 hours of a debate, which I'm loving. We'll do it on another night.
Me and you will always go around in circles.
But what you're arguing for now is that we spent 50 million quid 6 months ago on a player that's not going to come into his fruition for another 18 months when Harry Kane does or doesn't leave. And if Harry Kane does sign another contract, then it was a 50 million quid waste of budget.
Well, we needed a backup striker anyway. It's been a long outstanding issue. But they knew that Harry Kane's contract was coming up, and they'll be in a position this summer if he doesn't sign a new contract, they have to take the 100 million or else risk losing them for free, and they can't do that.
They will.
No,
Dave, I'm telling you, they'll take the gamble.
I'm not going to jump to conclusions. I'm going to wait and see what happens. But at the end of the day, they can't risk that. They'll have to take that 100 million to reinvest. But then if they didn't have a striker already in the door, everybody in world football knows they're going for a striker. Guess what? 20 million premium. So they had to get that problem sorted.
Okay, so you've done it now. Okay. All right.
Because you know Spurs fans, look, we all know, and even including me, I'd be in uproar. You'd be like, okay, Harry Kane's gone. Who's going to score?
Is any Tottenham fan going to be happy in a scenario? I'm not sure if I want to go down this path with you, because this could be another fucking hour conversation. But is any Tottenham fan going to be happy if Harry Kane leaves in the summer for 80 million quid, right? And we replace him with a centre back, and then we say, oh, who's the replacement? Harry Kane. Oh, it's Richarlison, who has barely scored more than 10 goals in any Premier League season he's ever been around. Correct. Like, are Tottenham fans going to be happy with that? I don't think they are. I think they're going to be fucking uproar. Like, Tottenham fans are going to say, if Harry Kane does leave, we'll wish him well. First of all, fuck Daniel Levy, fuck Paratici, fuck Tottenham for letting him go. But for what it's worth, I'm not even going to be happy if you go and sign an Ivan Toney.
It's to stop yourself from paying the premiums. It's like what we've done.
I get it. No, I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
It's like what we've done with the goalkeeper. We bought in Galini so that if we were going to sign Hugo Lloris's replacement, we wouldn't have to pay that extra premium on top, because it's like, well, look, we're not actually stuck. We've got Galini. They bring in Fraser Forster, because he's English, but again, everyone can see Hugo Lloris is on the decline, but it stops clubs putting the premium on the goalkeepers, because it's like, well, look, we've got Fraser Forster. We don't have to spend that money. You either want the money or you don't. So it stops these premiums happening.
Yeah, okay. All right. Listen, as much as I really want to dig into this one with you, Dave and Danny and Adam, like, this is a conversation that we should, and maybe if we can find time at the end, we can get back into it. But I got 4 more super chats to get through, and I also have to get into the Brian Hill conversation.
Yes, I've got a lot to say on that.
All right, so let me get through this first and foremost. Adam, I'll let you answer this one, mate. Jory saying, you're all assuming the missing logic of it, all due to us not seeing the big picture. There is no big picture. It's just the old ENIC incompetence. Now, I know how Danny feels about this. I know how I feel about it. I disagree. But Adam, I'll let you answer this one, mate, because it's been a while. Is Jory right or wrong?
100% out of his mind. What was I literally
We've
saying?
got no plan.
What was I saying? Like, when it's not, you can't say that it's we're all assuming the missing logic for the present, and then not assume that it's the same across time. Every single second that you've been a Spurs fan your entire life, you have no idea what's gone on behind the board. It didn't matter who the owners were. At no point have you known what's going on. The only thing we know for sure is what we can physically see with our own eyes. And what we saw for several years, it was a focus on the infrastructure, getting the best stadium, getting the best training ground, getting the best this, that, and the other for a long time. And now, finally, we're in a position where we've gone, okay, go get the best manager. We did. Now, let him back him, get the players that he wants, which we have done 99%, apart from the likes of a Jed Spence, who they still seemingly want to be thinking about the future, which is a competent fucking thing to do. So, I don't necessarily believe at the moment that it's been fair on the likes of Jed Spence and Brian Hill, because Conte doesn't want to play them, right? And that's his decision. He's running the team, and I completely trust Conte. But at the same time, no, I don't like either the way that Jed Spence and Brian Hill have been treated. Like they should have been getting a run out somewhere realistically, just to show.
So what is the big picture, Adam? Like Johnny's saying there ain't no big picture. You're saying there is a big picture. Adam, what's your big picture?
We have
established.
Hang on, Danny. I'll come to you in a second, Danny. Go on, Adam. What's the big picture?
Again, seeing with your own eyes as opposed to just assuming things based on all the media speculation that we've heard. Seeing with our own eyes, we finally have the infrastructure to actually wear the big boy pants that we've been claiming that we have for a long time, right? So we've been operating in the same sphere as teams with oil money or whatever other kind of dodgy money. We've been operating in the same sphere as these guys, while also establishing the best of everything that we can possibly have behind the scenes.
Except one thing.
Everything operating around the
best
team.
of the best team.
And now we're focused on the team. Now we're
definitely not.
Considering that you have, let's say for example, we only have a maximum of 3 world-class players, right? Maximum. If you want to have a team that can compete with Liverpool, Manchester City, and now Arsenal, who are, I believe, are fighting above their weight, to be fair, they're just having a particularly good purple patch. If you want to be able to box with these guys, you need to have basically 22 phenomenal players. And we do not have that. So now, as Conte has said again and again and again, it's a case of being patient. Even he's being patient, even though he's pulling his fake hair out. And it's going to take several transfer windows to get us to a point where we have 2 excellent players in every position. We're not even close right now. We need to give it time. But we live in a generation where everyone is so.
You've got an iota of patience. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm starting to wear a little bit thin. I am, but I'm with you as much as like. If this window finishes up how it is, it's a shit show. But
you're more emotional than me, Sean. That's the only difference.
I'm definitely more emotional than you. I know you want to go quickly, mate, because I've got 3 more super chats and I want to move in.
So look, I'm gonna. There's 1 or 2 points that I definitely agree with Adam on what he just said, but majority of it I don't. What I'm gonna spin this on with what Jory is saying is that I think Jory's wrong. I actually think the club know exactly what they're doing. That's the difference, right? The club, exactly that. The club know they have set a plan out for 22 years. They've turned around a £20 million investment or £22 million investment and made it into a corporation that's worth £4 to £5 billion, right? That is exactly the definition of a plan, right? When it comes to making money, right? What Jory, I think, wanted to say was, yeah, I agree that there's definitely that. What I think the problem is that there's never been a consistent plan or a sort of project, right, where they can get behind, the board can get behind on the footballing aspect, on the football team, right? That's been the biggest problem. You can clearly see that in the last 5 years, right? And that is for everyone to see. First of all, you have
they chose to build the infrastructure first. That's the only difference.
Yeah, but there's a
stadium and the
but thing
training
is, yeah, what I wanted to say was, right, and then you guys can chime in, but the stadium, right, of course, it was always been their plan, right? It's a multi-purpose stadium. It is there to generate revenue from multiple streams, right? Where the problem is, where I think a lot of people, I think we'll start to see in the next 2 years, right, is that the money that is coming from this revenue stream, this massive multi-purpose stadium, is not going to be put out in the way that maybe fans would like to see on the football team, right? And I think that's where the biggest problem lies with a lot of fans. And I think that's where
there's evidence that that's wrong.
I think that's where a lot of fans like myself are pissed off, because we see the same stuff in terms of the way they try to negotiate deals, the way they always leave us short in certain aspects in transfer windows. And I think, look, again, what we're going to see is over the next, people can always go back to, oh, we'll wait in the summer. But look, I'm never going to change my opinion on how I see them. I will see them as a money-making machine that doesn't...
You shouldn't have that stance. You should at least
You're
have a
really
little bit
change
of
your mind if you're proven wrong.
You should have a little bit of wiggle room.
I'm going to be proven right. I know I will. I'm just saying. All I'm saying is the people
You might
who
be
think
right. You might be
differently-
right. But
the
to
people
say
who
that you
think
never will,
differently
you never change
will
your mind
see-
is a silly thing to say.
Look, I know things that you guys don't know. I can tell you off stream.
I've
will
got
tell
an
you off
open
stream,
mind,
right?
Danny. I've got an open mind.
I know, Sean. Look, to an
change my
extent,
mind.
right? I agree. Yeah, look, you know my opinion. Sean, I'm going to tell you honestly, brutally on stream. I think you're a flip flop at times, right? And I'm going to say that, right?
I'm not a flip flop. No, hold on. No, you don't get to say something like that without me getting to immediately, right? No, there is this narrative that exists. I'm gonna say this very quickly because I know Dave wants to come in. But there's this narrative that exists that if you have an open mind, then you're a flip flop, right? A flip flop. Here's the definition of a fucking flip flop. All right, a flip flop is somebody who changes their mind just because there's a weight of ammunition or the wind is blowing in a certain direction, and then it suddenly whips around the other way, and then people go, "Oh, I'm leaving in, now I'm leaving out. Oh no, wait a minute, like Porro did actually happen. Now I'm leaving in again." That's a flip flop. Like when you have new information that comes to mind that is systemic and that can actually influence the get-go of something that's happening, a bigger, larger movement. Having an open mind is not having a flip-flop. It's called flexibility of thought. To say that somebody is a flip-flop when they have a certain style of thought processes, but then information is presented to them that is on a consistent basis antagonistic to where they actually thought, and they go, you know what? Actually, now I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing that, and I'm seeing the other. And on that basis, it's been so consistent that I can't help but actually feel this way. That's not being a flip-flop. That shouldn't be something that is like embarrassing. That shouldn't be something that's held against you. That should be something that's encouraged. In the opposite, like as a contrarian mindset, people that go, fuck you, I've made my mind up. I've fucking dug my trench. And I am in the Levy out camp, or I'm in the Levy in camp, or whatever it is. And it doesn't matter what comes along. I made my mind up 6 months ago, and no new information is going to change my mind. If that's the opposite of being a flip-flop, then I'll be a flip-flop all fucking day long, because what they are is called stubborn, obnoxious idiots who will not look at new information and judge it accordingly. So, Danny, if you think I'm a flip-flop, bro, then I'm a flip-flop. But I'm not a flip-flop in my mind. I'm someone that's got an open mind to new information.
That's fairly put, right? I definitely see where you're coming from and exactly what you're saying. And you're one of these people that you always like to go on evidence and facts and see what's there, and that's where you normally make your decisions. And sometimes you do change it in the respect. For example, right? Not long ago, you were saying Levy out, right? And now it's kind of
I never said Levy out.
Come on,
Sean, I never said Levy out. I said.
Do you want me to show you? You said Levy out to me and to other people
I might have put in messages to. I say it to you in a joke today. I said Levy out as a joke, right? But what I'm saying,
not today. I'm talking about before when you're like, you said to me, Sean, you said start again, blow it up, start again, get rid of everyone, get rid of Levy, get rid of Conte, get rid of.
I'm 100% up for a fact. I'm 100% up for a factory fucking reset. 100% I am. Right? Based on the idea that if this is where we're going and Daniel Levy is not going to, like, for what it's worth, back Conte is a ridiculous fucking concept that doesn't have any tangible assets to it. Right? I am someone that says if Antonio Conte wants to leave, if he's not happy, And Daniel Levy cannot participate in the new era of football, which seems to have absolutely no recognition of living within your means.
Mm.
If that's what the new version of football is, and Daniel Levy isn't willing to get on board that and participate in this speculative mindset of doing what Todd Bowley's doing, if that's what it takes, and Daniel Levy isn't going to go there, and Antonio Conte wants to fuck off accordingly, then blow the whole fucking lot up, reset. That does not make me a flip-flop. That doesn't make me anything other than saying I'm looking at the situation now that wasn't the same situation last year. The situation
has the context of you want to get rid of the management for the fact that you are not satisfied with the way that they have run the club up to now. Whereas I believe that Sean and I would be on the same page in the sense that if Daniel Levy left tomorrow, or if we were to say we were happy to see the back of Levy, it wouldn't be the case that we thought he needs to go.
I'll never be Levy out though, Adam. I will never be Levy out because Levy out is based on a mindset of sitting there with resentment, and then it reflects on what this guy has done. And says that he has failed us over the last 21 years. I will never ever be a part of that mindset because it's bullshit.
You can't ridicule someone for not knowing what you know. Like Danny, you say it yourself. Like, I know, I speak to people. So you're being told by people that like stuff in and around the club that maybe we don't know. You can't crucify 5 people for not knowing that. Then
no, of course,
you can't do that.
But David, it's why I'm trying to have these discussions with people, right? In a way so that people can see maybe some of the stuff that I see and I know, right? Because there's a lot more than meets the eye than what's going on at this club.
Just 2 seconds, but 2 seconds.
Madness.
The people that I've seen the last 2 or 3 days calling other people flip flops. I've heard so much flip floppiness. Like traditional flip-floppiness, right? I've heard somebody yesterday saying that Newcastle United, we're a flip-flop. Whoever's a flip-flop for thinking this, but yet Newcastle United suddenly are the people to look towards for doing business because they've signed Anthony Gordon. And yet those same people 3 weeks ago were saying that Tottenham are fucking idiots if we sign Anthony Gordon. And now they're using Newcastle United as the fucking benchmark of ambition because they signed Anthony Gordon. That is a flip-flop. But yet those people are calling other people flip-flops.
I agree. I think using Anthony Gordon as an example of that, I think is just ridiculous in my opinion. I think that is just, it's just stupid. I agree. I completely agree with that.
So I take a little bit of like homage to being called a flip-flop when all I've ever done is I'm open-minded and I look at new information, but at the same time I respect and recognize where I've come from and where I'm going. I won't listen. We got off track. Dave, I need you to answer a super chat for me because I'm so far behind. I know we're running out of time.
Yeah.
I don't know how long everyone's got, but let me get back to it. It was where did I get to? Frankly, Tottenham. Frankly, Tottenham said Bruno Fernandes all over again a few years ago. Tottenham were faced with a similar scenario with the same club. Dave,
it's true. Like, didn't they move their goalposts on Fernandes at the last minute? They wanted an extra 5 million. You know, it's not a new wit sporting, but we've seen the reality of not sort of taking our own medicine. We ended up bringing in Lo Celso, which was an absolute shit show. You know, so for me, I think we've already learned our lesson for not taking our medicine and not paying that extra few million. So on this point, I would say learn your lessons and pay the extra few million to get Porro in here if it's what it takes, because second, third, fourth option is not always the right option to go, and it can have detrimental effects longer term because we're still trying to offload Lo Celso. Whereas you look at what Bruno Fernandes is doing for United, that's the difference. So for me, pay the extra few million, learn your lesson from the Fernandes deal and try and get this Porro deal over the line. Meet that 3 million, because last time the thing is we didn't want to meet that 5 million. Okay, well this time say to him, okay, we'll meet your 3 million this time, the extra that you want, but after that you can fuck off, and let's see where it gets you. I just wanted to add something quickly. Quick is what Jory and Danny were talking about the club and stuff like that. For me, when you look at the club, we built the stadium, we built the training complex and the infrastructure, but we neglected everything else around the club: the youth department, the scouting department, the playing team that we see on the pitch. They've completely neglected that while getting the stadium and the training complex done, because that's their whole sole focus. And since then, we've been trying to make the money spread between getting in youths in here, getting in coaches, to hiring and firing managers, hitting in the transfer window more often than what we get right. Trying to get up a scouting department. So the money that we have had, we've been trying to make spread because we neglected so much over the stadium and over the building of the training complex. And that's why we find ourselves in a situation where we are today, because of all that. Like, we've got bigger problems at this club than just our first 11. That's the immediate focus. But you've got a scouting department that is nowhere near on the level of other top clubs. You've got a youth setup that is nowhere near producing any players anywhere near good enough, and the gap between them is absolutely huge. So there's more problems going on. But the reality is, everything was neglected to build that stadium, and since then they've been playing catch up, and they haven't. And that's why we're in the position we're in today, unfortunately, since that Champions League final blew.
Love it, mate. Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying, bro. Absolutely, 100%. Adam, I need you to take this one from me, from Brandon Troller. He's saying, guys, we're missing the plot. The freed up Porro money can finally be spent on His Holiness Sir Mario Balotelli, the true Italian stallion. Tongue in cheek from Brandon.
As usual.
As usual, I love his Italian dishes. But is there money that could be spent if we miss out on him? Could you spend it elsewhere? Could it satisfy Tottenham fans if we go a different direction tomorrow?
I think we know exactly who we're going after in the summer with respect to the positions that still need to be filled after the right wing back. We know. I think that we are sure of going for an absolutely epic centre back. We're going for, I would believe that David Raya is going to be top of the list for goalkeepers in the summer, and then there'll probably be another centre back as well to play either understudy or come in instead of Dyer. So I think that given we know exactly what we're doing in those aspects, I don't see us not spending the money in this January window and going for one of those players. I think that we're either after Bastoni or Guardiola in the summer, and we're after David Raya, who we can't get right now. So it's going to be a case of, if we don't get Porro, we are screwed. It's a shit window.
Yeah, nothing worth replacing it with.
No,
all right,
there's no one we want in that position more than Porro. So we don't want another situation, as you've put it many a time, Sean, of marrying the bridesmaid instead of the bride. So we want the bride. Let's have the bride. If not, then it's going to be, we'll be miserable for the next.
We'll get the bride, mate. We're going to get the bride. Don't even worry about it. I'm so confident because everyone else is so inconfident. If I'm wrong, I'm going to get mugged off for a day. But if I'm right, I'm going to ride off that coattail for the next fucking 6 months.
No, I think Porro happens. Does everybody here think Porro happens? By the way, I think everyone in this panel thinks Porro happens, right? Yeah.
All right, because quickly, John Stokes saying, "Big up, Bugsy." Yeah, she's downstairs. I think she's pissed off someone else in my household, and so she's hiding. But I'll let her know when I buy her a little bone or something, John. So I appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much. And Jory, last one. There's a couple more actually. Big picture. Chelsea see it. Brighton see it. Arsenal see it. Spurs don't see it. Actually, I do see it, and it's real estate. Jory, you're killing me, bro. You're killing me. I love you. Thank you so much for the super chat. Danny, do you think this is all about real estate? Do you actually believe that the reason why we're not spending the money right now is because that 50 million is going to get sucked back into a separate escrow account? They're going to go and buy a couple of property pieces on High Road?
If you know what the plans are, what they've got planned for the infrastructure, I'm talking about what Joe Lewis's plan has always been for what his family want as their legacy, right? What their family want is to gentrify Tottenham completely, right? It's to completely gentrify it.
I get it. Yeah.
So it's
same
not
thing happened to Brooklyn in New York. I was there in Williamsburg when it happened in 20. I know I get it, but for what it's worth, you're never going to see on any Tottenham Hotspur football club set of accounts
of course,
anything about a cinema, anything about a set of.
They'll show you.
But the money coming in doesn't go towards that shit. It just doesn't come.
You say that, Sean. You say that.
Mate.
But you say that, Sean. You think that?
I do say it because I know it. I've read every one of the last 10 accounts.
Okay,
back to back.
so you know exactly how Daniel Levy is this genius businessman, right? Who doesn't do dodgy shit behind everyone's back.
No, I'm just saying that I've read
these are people who are trying to who are going to make billions from this stuff. Come off it, man. Honestly,
nothing that comes in from Tottenham Hotspur.
If you
nothing that's
seriously believe that, Sean, if you seriously believe that this club is not doing other things other than just the football stuff, then that's naive.
ENIC might be doing that. ENIC might be doing that.
So where are they ENIC getting their money from?
Because from ENIC,
why have we built a multi-purpose stadium, Sean?
ENIC is a far bigger. Tavistock Group is a far bigger entity than Tottenham Hotspur. All I'm telling you,
why have they put up all the properties on the Tottenham High Road?
You will not see on Tottenham Hotspur.
Why did they buy the golf course, Sean?
Do you see on Tottenham Hotspur Football Club's accounts the amount of money that they made from green fees from that golf club? Do you see any outgoing money? No, you don't, bro.
No, so I'm asking you. I'm asking you.
No, you don't. You don't see that money. I'm asking you. I'm telling you, you don't see that, alongside the 600 million that we've made from this, that, and the other, you don't see 50 million quid that's come in from someone playing golf once a day for the last 4 years. You don't see
We're not talking about someone playing golf. We're talking about why are they spending money buying a golf course? They spent over 17 million pounds trying to get that.
It's an entirely different from the council. It's an entirely different thing.
All right,
mate.
Where are they getting the money from, Sean? Do you think ENIC are going to invest their own money into it to build up Tottenham, to regenerate Tottenham? Come on, man.
When you go and buy a fucking beer at Tottenham Hotspur, that money sits on Tottenham Hotspur's accounts. If you don't see,
so Sean, let me ask you this question, right? I know what you're saying, right? So, how do you think clubs like Chelsea, Man City, PSG are able to do the business that they do and the way they do it, right? You think it's all like legal the way they do it? How do they get around FFP rules? How do they do it? Right? If you know how Man City and PSG have shell companies where they siphon money through the shell companies.
Of course, I broke
so
that.
You're saying
I
that
talk about
Tottenham
that
can't do
that.
that.
I'm the only Tottenham channel that talks about that stuff, Danny.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying, Sean. But it's being naive. It's being naive to say that they don't do that to siphon money through their other shell companies, right?
Tottenham Hotspur. You will not see on their February accounts when they release it, you will not see anything about a golf course. You will not see anything about a cinema complex. You will not see how many fucking bags of popcorn were bought from people in Tottenham.
Right? Do you think they want the fans to know that the money is going towards these things? Do you honestly think that? Seriously?
If Tottenham Hotspur were bringing money in and that money was going out to a third party that was then putting that money back into Tottenham Hotspur property, that was then building flats that was then getting sold, and that money was going out of the club, that story would be everywhere. It would be everywhere, mate. It's not a story. It's not a story.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was the golf course not bought to build up the women's academy and stuff? Was that not the plan?
It's not on the account. So the plan is right.
So I'll tell you what they've got plans to do, right? So David's right? That golf course was bought so that they can build a women's academy. Plus, it's going to be a multi-purpose complex, right? It's going to be used for an NFL training base. I don't know if you know this, Sean, but they've also got plans to build a small women's stadium there as well, right? Where does that money come from Tottenham to build a stadium for the women's Tottenham team? Where does it come from? Tell me, why has Tottenham gone and paid a record transfer fee for a women's football team? Why are they trying to build the women's football team up as well and spending money there?
What's wrong with that? That's Tottenham Hotspur.
Have a think about it.
What's wrong with
you work in marketing, Sean? You work in marketing. You know exactly how marketing works.
I used to work in investment banking for 10 years. What is wrong with Tottenham Hotspur spending £250,000 on a player in the women's league? What is wrong with that?
Right. Why are they focusing on trying to market? Trying to market. Yeah, all right. Everyone does the same thing, but we're not everyone, Sean. We don't spend like Chelsea, right? We don't spend like Tottenham, Man City or Liverpool on their first team, right? We don't focus on the first team at Tottenham. Why is that? Look. Can I just say one thing, right? I know what Adam William Cahill, where his angle is coming from, for example, right? Adam's on. Correct me if I'm wrong, Adam. Right? Please do. But I understand the way you see it is that now we've got this stadium and the structure and everything in place. Now we're going to start reaping the rewards from the stadium, and eventually we're going to start building this team up slowly, right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong or am I right?
No,
that's how you kind of see it.
Spot on.
Right. See, and that's completely fine for you to have that opinion. But for me, what I see is the other elements of what they're doing behind the scenes. And this is why I don't believe we're ever going to see them really put money into the Tottenham team, right? The first team, so that we can even compete for trophies.
I see. So there's
the-
two sides of it,
go on,
right?
go on,
You've
go
got
on.
Tottenham making money. You've got Tottenham making money through the stadium and through all these different means, because the stadium not only gets used for playing football, it also gets used for playing NFL. It gets used for concerts. It gets used for boxing and blah 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 blah. With all of that money coming in, absolutely, as businessmen, these guys are going to go, wow, we turned Tottenham Hotspur from a few million valued club to a few billion valued club. Aren't we fucking amazing? We deserve to line our pockets with this. And to be perfectly honest with you, watching a businessman take that level of a risk and then line their pockets with that money, I am absolutely fine with that. As long as if the money that comes in, which is going to be substantial, especially when you've got the size of the stadium that it is now, the bigger the club gets, the more popular it gets. You bring in a player like Sonny, suddenly you have an entire continent interested in giving you their cash. Then you've got all the other different events that are happening. Then you've got the stadium rights that are going to happen, and then potentially some other buyer coming in and buying 25% of the club or more, and then you get crazy money, right? With all of that money coming in, even if 90% of it went into the pockets of rich billionaires, if 10% of that insane amount of extra money that Tottenham have goes into the football, we will still be able to compete for trophies. 100% we will.
Okay, guys, let's part this, because the four of us can get back together on another show. I know that we got a very limited time. We're already overran. Dave's got to go in a minute as well. But I really, really, really want to get through the last couple of super chats, and then I have to ask you guys. I have to get back on fact before you, Dave. Have you got enough time? Danny, Adam,
of course.
you got a few more minutes? Okay,
So I'll have as much time in the world for you as you need me to have for you, my man.
No, I love it. I know I know everyone's got other channels they want to be on and stuff, but listen, there's two more things I want to get to. I want to get through the last super chats, and then I have to ask everyone's opinion about the way that Brian Hill has been treated at this club, because to me, it's a fucking disgrace. And but Danny, we can pick this one up about the finances again anytime you want, bro.
Definitely.
It's a great conversation, and I love it. But so John Stokes said, "Big up, Bugsy."
Go.
So, but and Jory said, "Big picture." We've done that one. And Brandon Troller said he likes flip flops. Way better than foot prisons. That's a fucking brilliant chat, mate. I appreciate your super chat, Brandon, and Jory's and John's, and frankly, and Jory and Moondogs. Everybody else's. Your super chats are so welcome and a brilliant part of the chat this evening.
Breaking news: Jed Spence has chosen to join Rennes on loan, according to Marzio.
Wow.
And
Okay.
the FA Cup draw is taking place now as well. So,
Can someone keep an eye on the FA Cup draw for us?
I'm on it.
Thank you, Dave. All right, let's move forward. Let's get forward. The last discussion I wanted to ask you boys about is the Brian Hill saga, right? And I'm gonna start with you, Dave, on this one. Look, for me, Brian Hill's been sent out on loan to Seville, right? A load of people were making this argument. It's a fucking shit show. It's an embarrassment that we paid £25 million plus Lamella for this kid, and all of a sudden, right now at least, it looks like Seville have taken 25 million quid from us plus Lamella, and they still have Brian Hill. Right? I know that's a bit of an exaggerated version of the truth, but on paper it looks like we've been absolutely fucking mugged off. But to me, I'm happy that Brian Hill is going to go and play some football, because I think that Tottenham Hotspur have treated Brian Hill, and this is Daniel Levy and Paratici and Conte and everybody. I think they've treated this kid like the bot that shit on their shoe. I thought that last summer, when it came to the transfer window, he was ready to go on loan, and we were supposed to have Malinowski coming on loan. It didn't happen. And then he was always like kicked to the curb. It was one of those, we'll figure out your future when we've done with the stuff that really matters. And then we couldn't get it done. And then he comes in, he plays a couple of games, he plays his fucking heart out for 3 minutes or 10 minutes or the 90 minutes when he's been asked to play. He might not be strong enough to handle the Premier League, but you cannot argue or criticize, in my opinion, his work rate, his effort, or his accountability when he's on the pitch. And then this summer, this window comes around, and once again, his future gets kicked to the back, the back curve. He gets kicked to the curve. And to me, I think he's been treated like an absolute fucking disgrace by Daniel Levy, by Joe Lewis, by anybody that's in charge. No one gives a shit about Brian Hill's future at Tottenham Hotspur. And I think it's absolutely outrageous. As much as I agree that it's embarrassing to find that he's gone back to the club that have taken us for 25 million plus.
There's a reason for that, though. I'll tell you now.
Tell me how you feel about it, Dave.
Look, first of all, I completely echo your sentiments towards Brian Hill. First of all, I really hope it works out for the kid. Look, he's a guy that, I famously dubbed Gil Messi. Everyone knows that. Everyone talks about, is he really Gil Messi? I mean, if you're going to compare him to Messi, you may as well just tune out, because it was only a bit of fun on his name, a bit of wordplay. But look, Gil, I like him. But the reality is, Sean, is his game time has been limited since he got here. Now, he was supposed to be loaned out this summer, was pulled at the last minute, like you said, because we couldn't get another buddy in here, which has not been fair to the guy. So he stuck around. Any minutes he's got this season, I think he's took them. I think he's been infectious. He's been proactive. He wants to get on the ball. He makes things happen. He's direct. And when we don't have the ball, he's the only one that I've seen this season showing the energy to go and try and win it back. So on that basis, I would have kept him as well, especially with Lucas Moura still sitting here. He's gone in the summer. No one's going to pay a fee this January for him, because why would they when they can get him for free in the summer? And he wants to go back to Brazil anyway. And he's been injured this season. So for me, it now whittles us down to 5 players in the forward line when I would rather have 6. So that's not good. But the reality is he's been put down the pecking order because of the signing of Danjuma. So... And as well, we also need to free up a foreign spot for Pedro Poro to come in here. Now, it's easier to send Gil out on loan because there's interest there, rather than any of the other players we got where there doesn't seem to be any interest. Now, on the manager at Sevilla, the reason why it's Sevilla he's gone to is because it's Sampioli. He used to be manager of Marseille a year ago, and he came out and said this himself yesterday, that he gave Gil a ring when he was at Marseille. He tried to bring him there. He really likes the kid. And the reason why Gil has gone to Sevilla is because of that manager. That's why he's chosen to go back there. Because that manager fancies him, and that manager has a vision and a plan for him and wants to play him. He trusts him. That's why he's ended back up Sevilla. If that manager was still at Marseille or another team, that's where he would have went. But the manager really wants him, and that could work out good for Tottenham, because as far as I understand, there is no obligation to buy. There's no future fee involved. It is just a straight loan to the end of the season. So hopefully now it's 4 or 5 months of just pure football for Brian Hill. He can develop as a player and hopefully come back here in the summer.
You think he'll come back, though? Do you think he wants to come back after the way he's been treated?
Personally, I don't think so, Sean, but it's the same as Jed Spence. He's been treated shit, you know. You would argue maybe Papa Matasar as well. You know,
can I just chime in about Jed Spence after you, Dave?
Yeah, of course.
You know, look, Sean, there's a common theme with young players, and it's not only players that we've bought to come in here, it's also the young players from the academy. There is no pathway for them into the first team. But why would there be when we're using Portsmouth, Preston, to play guys that we know are not good enough? We've known this for a long time, to try and play them into a bit of form and also put them in the shop window to try and sell them on. But what we haven't learned is there just isn't enough interest in these guys. So we're at a point now where we have to decide, okay, if there's no value in them, you're going to have to get rid of them by hook or crook. So either whether you send them down to the under-23s like you done with Danny Rose because you didn't like what he said about the club, or whether you pay them up front and rip up their contracts. We have a decision to make, because any young player that comes here is not getting an opportunity. And what I actually found laughable is we signed that young guy off Chelsea today, and that young striker. He said he moved here because there was no pathway to the first team at Chelsea. But there's none at Tottenham either.
Oh, no, it's madness, isn't it? It's madness. I've got no idea why he's come here.
It's pointless signing them, but this is the problem, Sean. There's no point in bringing youngsters into this club until we sort out that first team. Once that first team is sorted out and you've got a fresh squad and everyone's raring to go, everyone wants to take minutes, that's then when you can use the opportunity to start breeding youngsters. The Europa Conference League last year should have been that opportunity, But we were sending out full internationals who didn't want to be there and then didn't get the job done, which means then even if you did bring a few on the bench, you can't get them on. Because I grew up in an era where you smash these teams, it's over by 60, 70 minutes, and you're bringing on youngsters. It's how Harry Kane come through, and you're giving them the opportunity. But we haven't been able to do that because we've accumulated so much fucking shit.
100%.
And that's why we're at where we are at with Brian Hill, and not him, but Spence, you know.
No, I think Brian Hill's treated well, right? Brian Hill's trained well. I see some people in the chat. I've been bad with the comments because I've been trying to get through the super chats. I apologize those that are watching. What I'm reading every single one of them. People were saying that Jed Spence, isn't training well. Michael's saying Jed Spence is a bit. And Danny, I saw you waxing lyrical about this on a WhatsApp group yesterday. Like Jed Spence, apparently, whatever. Who knows what's going on? But in reality, he isn't training well. But Brian Hill, no one's saying that. I just feel bad for the kid. This guy's got so much potential, and he's been treated like a mug by Tottenham, and I think it's disgusting.
I agree with both of you what you said about Hill. Look, Brian Hill, I can tell you for a fact, he's actually one of the best trainers at Tottenham. Right, he is actually one of the best trainers at Tottenham. There's not many players that work harder than him in training.
You see it on the pitch, though, Danny.
You can, and it's. Yeah, you're right. It's for me. I think I actually would have liked to have kept Hill in the squad. To be honest with you, I think I've seen enough of him to kind of at least come off the bench, because whenever he has come off the bench, he looks bright. I'm not saying he's the finished article by any means. We know that he's got a little bit to do more in terms of his physical aspect and in terms of his I'd say his end product a little bit, but other than that, you can see that there's a gifted player there. You can clearly see that. I think people who don't see it, I think it's deluded, in my opinion. We're not saying that he's ready to go straight into the first team and actually just completely change our season around. But
you have a very low estimation of Danjuma, Danny, right? You don't think Danjuma was a good purchase or a good loan?
No, I think Danjuma.
Danny's been pretty reasonable about that. It's other people that have been dismissing him. Danny's been fairly reasonable.
Because my confusion comes into it then with respect to if Danjuma is an improvement, then why are so many people up in arms over the fact that we're not doing the business on the footballing side of things, but then as soon as we're not giving Hill a chance, but we're bringing in someone who is more ready to go right this minute because he doesn't need more playing time to get better. He doesn't need more gym time to get bigger. We bring in Danjuma and let Hill go out, and then suddenly it's like, oh, Hill's not being treated fairly. It's like we're improving the football side of things. Conte wanted someone better than Hill. Hill's gone out to train somewhere else. We brought Danjuma in to be even better than him. We've improved in one swift move.
Well, key word you just said, we haven't improved yet because we don't know what he's going to be like, right? So we can't sit and say that he's going to definitely be an upgrade on Brian Hill. As what we've seen of him, he's showing signs that he could be add something to our squad. Doesn't mean he's going to be this flying player that everyone might think that he might.
No, but this is why we hired Conte, though. Conte looked at Danjuma and went, "Danjuma will get me goals." Brian
No. Don't get it twisted. That wasn't a Conte signing. I'm telling you, that's not a Conte signing. Danjuma, go on, Dave. The
problem where the thing comes in with the youngsters, I can actually understand Adam's point. When you look at it, it's more of a Conte player than Danjuma. He's here and now. He's ready. He'd have more confidence throwing him in, and maybe a bit earlier in games than what he would Brian Hill. I fully understand that. But the problem we have is we have to learn to start identifying these youngsters around the world, get them in early and develop them in a proper way so that in the future it saves you having to spend this 80, 90, 100 million because you have it in your academy, you've developed it. And this is where my problem comes with the way we treat these youngsters, the players coming through in the academy and the no pathway for them, is because that's the future of your football club. If you can bring one through, that saves you £100 million player, like we done with Harry Kane. It saves you 100 million, 200 million, over the course of 10, 15 years. That's huge, which means you can use that to invest in other areas. But when you look at our team now, we've got fucking nothing for Harry Kane that's come true. And that's why we're fucking paying what we are. And that's why we're in a position what we are. We're paying top dollar to try and bring top players in here when we have to learn to start producing them ourselves.
Boys, the game is the draw is on. The first two out. Southampton has got Luton or Grimsby. Leicester versus Blackburn or Birmingham. It's now Stoke have got Brighton.
Yeah, Brighton.
Oh, the 2 United clubs are still in there. Fucking anyway.
Man
How
City.
much
We need
you
to
guys?
get one of the good ones, guys. Let's press pause for a second on what's
Tottenham.
going on elsewhere.
No.
It's
Wrexham.
We'll take
or
that
Sheffield
one. We'll
United.
take that.
Come on,
Wrexham,
Tottenham.
come on.
Come on, let's get now.
Tottenham! Let's go!
Come on.
Let's do this. Come on, Genus. Do us a favour. Tottenham! He's done it! Come on, Genus! That's a good draw.
That's a Hollywood.
That is
Literally a Hollywood draw. Because now we're going.
It's our year! It's our year!
Man, all we need that was a Manchester derby.
Come on.
Come on, give it to us. Give us the Manchester derby.
That's
Fulham or
mental.
Sunderland against...
I would love to go to that game.
Who is it?
Come on.
16. Leeds. The Manchester
Come on,
Club's
Leeds.
still in it.
It's coming,
Come on.
boys, it's coming.
Come on.
Give us
It's
the
coming!
Manchester derby. Come on, you fuckers.
Ipswich. Oh no,
13.
who's that? Bristol City.
Bristol
City.
Come on.
Please be
fuckers.
7 or 4. 7,
Please,
4 or
Genius.
11. 7, 4 or 11. 12.
Man
no,
City.
Fucking anyway. I don't care
Okay.
now. Ruined. But anyway, we got Wrexham. That's the main
We got-
thing. We're true to
yeah.
the quarters.
Derby or West Ham could get United. United are at home.
Manchester United at home.
I wouldn't
Please be
mind
West Ham. Go on, be West Ham.
7. That would be good. West Ham or
West Ham.
Derby.
Wrexham
Derby
or
could do
Sheffield
them.
United.
Man United. Yeah. it is,
Yes,
yeah.
Derby or West Ham. It's Derby or West Ham.
Man United have had a good fucking luck. They've had a lucky draw on all.
But Derby
accounts.
knocked them out like a couple years back, didn't they?
Come on.
It's our year, boys. It's our year. Come on.
So it's obviously Ipswich or Burnley versus Sheffield Wednesday or Fleetwood. That's the last one.
That should be enough to put us into a quarters anyway. Thank fuck for that.
The treble is on, lads. The treble
You know,
is on.
The treble is
back-
on.
You know what you were saying about Hill as well, right? And with the Hill situation, I do agree with in terms of I think the club they really haven't handled that situation with him very well at all. I think he's just been very unlucky. And it's a shame that he's actually not going to an English club if they're going to get him on loan. I just feel that while Conte is at this club, I don't feel that he's going to be given a chance. Even though Conte said some really good things about him, I just think that
season from now.
Huh?
A season from now, Conte might be like, "Yeah, you're ready."
Yeah, I think so. I think. Look, if he's already talked about him actually getting better in terms of his physical aspect already, right?
Yeah.
So I think he just needs to keep going in that direction and hope that he still has that motivation that one day he can be a Spurs player. And I think he could be a good player for our squad if he can get up to those standards. And now, just to want to point out about Jed Spence, right? Jed Spence. Now, Stellini's come out and said about him not training well. I was told that the stuff about Jed Spence is that obviously the club are the ones who did the deal, right? Levy's the one who did that deal. 3 days after they did the deal, they wanted to loan him out straight away. 3 days after he came into the club, they wanted to loan him out. He said no. He wanted to fight for his place, right? Because the club have basically said to him he's going to get a chance, right? Conte promised and said, I will give him minutes if he can listen to what I'm saying, basically, and if he shows me in training that he's worth, he's basically proves to me that he's ready to have a chance in the first team, I'll give him a chance. And what's happened is basically as time's gone on, he's essentially what the coaching staff and Conte have felt about him is that he's not listening to the instructions of what they want him to do on the training pitch, right? Tactically,
Isn't that similar to the problems he had with Neil Warnock?
it was, David. It was, and I can tell you as well, right? His family have been down to the training ground. His mum and I think it might have been his sister or someone else.
Yeah, his sister spoke to the press before as well.
They've come down to the training ground and basically been complaining about Spence not getting a chance. And unfortunately, the club is the one that promised him the chance, not Conte. Conte never said you're 100% getting a chance. The club said that. That's why Conte came out and said this is a club signing, right? So then what's happened is he's basically got a bit of an attitude because he thinks he's got this divine right to play in the squad because he feels he's better than Emerson and whoever, right? But look,
probably is.
Of course, right? Let's be honest, right? On terms of ability, he probably shown more ability than what Emerson and what Doherty have got, right? In terms of his cameo, what he did last season, he shows more ability and more potential, right? But where I agree with what the coach and staff are doing about Spence is this. The fact that he's not listening to them or doesn't want to listen to them or he's not getting it, they feel that he's not ready to take that next jump to handle the pressure and to listen and understand what a management wants from a player who's trying to play in a team who's trying to compete for that top 4, right? And if he's not listening to them and he thinks he's better than he knows better than the boss, why should a manager play a player who doesn't want to listen to the manager, right? When you're a youngster,
here's the problem.
But this is Dave. Just to spin it before you say this, what you're going to say, they've obviously used Sarr and Hill as an example of when you train hard, you will get chances. Now, look, we all know that Sarr and Hill got a bit of a little run in the team because we had injuries, but they were given the chance. Like, he could have gone with a 5-3-2 and played and completely taken them out of the team, but he stuck with the formation. He gave them a chance, and Sarr's looked good and in patches, and so has Hill, right? So he's not that he won't give them a chance, but if you can't listen to what the manager wants from you, why should we have someone like Antonio Conte in, who's a winner, who's got the mentality that if you listen to me, we're gonna do good things? Why should he bend over and say, do you know what, Spence, I'll give you a chance? You're not listening to me. I'll give you a chance.
No. A good manager is as adaptable as a good squad is to the manager. I've worked. I mean, everybody.
No, I don't agree with that.
Why should a fucking manager have to be so stubborn, Danny? It's an antiquated system.
He should use the best players at his disposal. If he thinks
surely you can see.
But you don't use someone.
There was a period when 4-4-2 was like the standard 90s football. When we grew up, 4-4-2. Everyone played 4-4-2, and then someone came along and went, "Nah, I'm not going to do 4-4-2 anymore. I'm going to put 3 in the midfield and put 2 up front and put 5 at the back." Whatever it was, like the game is dynamic. The game moves along. Like I take the point. I've said this on Dave's stream 1,000 times, and Dave always disagrees with me. But I always say that, like, if you're someone that is predictable, then you lose the edge. And Dave always says, no, the best managers don't have to adapt. And I'm saying, well, that's true if you have the best squads. If you have the best squads, like if you're Pep Guardiola and you've got like 25 of the best players in the world across 11 positions, you don't have to adapt. You can have the arrogance based on your success to say, I'm going to play my style, my football, and ultimately, like, we might win some, lose some, we're going to win more than we're going to lose. But ultimately, I trust us. If we execute our game plan, it doesn't matter.
How exactly? Sorry,
let me finish. Let me just land quickly,
Yep.
Adam, and I'll come to you. But Jurgen Klopp had that style, but then he realized this season he doesn't have the squad to do it anymore, and that's why he's position 10 or 9 in the league. It's because his like, we're going to do our thing and see how you get on. It doesn't work when you don't have a squad. Conte is the sort of guy who comes with that arrogant mindset of, I'm doing my thing.
And I like that.
Right? No, it's fine as long as you've got the squad to do it. He doesn't have the squad to do it.
Okay.
And accordingly, he should adapt. Because if you're too predictable with a substandard squad, which is what you're seeing with Jurgen Klopp this season, the reason why he is so bad this season is because his squad can't handle this narrative of, come at me, bro. I'm going to execute our game plan, and you're not going to be able to handle it, but most teams can handle it. And Conte has that same system based on his arrogance that is born out of his success in squads that he's managed in other leagues or in this league, when he's always had the very best. And he doesn't have that.
But the problem is, if you look at him, if you're suggesting that, okay, he doesn't have the very best, so he has to work with what he's got. If he decides, feck it, I'll work with what I have, then he at no point will go to the man upstairs and go, my team's not good enough, I need replacement. So if he he says Brian Hill is fine. If he says Brian Hill is absolutely
fine, you're excusing someone. Hang on, sorry, Adam. Are you excusing?
Just quickly. I have a fan show in half an hour, Sean, and it runs for 4 hours. So
we'll wrap it. Okay, okay. Dave, thank you so much, mate. I'll let you jump off, and then the 3 of us can wrap it up because we have to wrap it up anyway.
Thank you very much,
Dave. Love you, man. Thanks so much, Dave. Tell us where everyone can find on your channel.
No, look, you can find me over the Irish Hotspur. You also find Sean. It's Sean's home away from home over there. And look, Sean, hopefully now that you're back doing lives, I can be on a lot more of them with you, my man. I really enjoy them. But everybody, keep smashing the like button for Sean. Keep supporting him the way you do. It's been absolutely amazing. I'm buzzing for you, Adam. great to see you again. Hopefully the father's all good, my man. And
Cheers,
Danny,
mate.
good to see you again. Boys, I'll see you all
Likewise.
soon. Come on,
See you later,
Spurs.
David.
Cheers, Dave.
Okay, Dave.
Get over to the Irish Hotspur, my man. I'm gonna put the link into the channel now. He's got to go, but I'm gonna put it in there.
I nearly cancelled your stream there. How do I get out of here? Yeah, leave studio. See you, buddy.
You do that. If you want, might be a blessing in disguise.
No look, show end.
Guys, get over to the Irish Hotspur. But listen, I want Adam or Danny.
Two quick points on this, right? I'm just going to quickly spin it. So firstly, right, if you've got an employee that works for you and you keep telling that employee, please do this, please do this, please do this, please, and he goes, nah, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to do that, I can't bother to do that, right? Are you going to keep persisting with that, and you're going to actually put him in the firing line to go and do a really important, say, for example, a meeting, right? You're saying, you need to say this in the meeting, you need to do this in the meeting, you need to do that. And he goes, well, no, I don't really want to do that. Are you going to then go and trust that person, right? And you're putting your job on the line if you don't get the results you want to get, because you're going to trust. Are you going to trust an employee to put him into that limelight if he's not listening to what you're saying? It's the same principle as what Conte's doing. The guy is not listening to him, right? He's not listening to Conte or the coaching staff. So why should Conte have to play him, right? And the other thing I was going to spin on where you said about a manager should adapt, right? So what I want to say on this is, when Klopp came into Tottenham, when Klopp came into Liverpool, when Arteta came into Arsenal, when Pep went into Man City, and when Poch came into Tottenham, right? All of those four people had one thing in common. They wanted to. They had their own style and their own philosophy. Poch sold 17 players in his first summer transfer window, right, to try and get out the players that he couldn't coach because either they had attitude problems or they weren't listening or they weren't up to spec for what they could do in training, right? Klopp did the same thing. Arteta took 3 years to build his squad, three and a half years where we are now, right? Mm-hmm. And one thing in common that they all had, including Pep, right? They all stuck to exactly what they do and how they've won stuff in the past, right? So my argument is, why would you hire a manager, right? And then an elite manager, should we say, right? Bring him into the club and say, you need to change your style and your philosophy to suit the players that we have. I
agree with Danny completely.
It doesn't make sense. It means what's the point of Conte then? That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm going to say on that.
And that's fine. But
you're getting sentimental, I think, Sean. I think
I'm not sentimental. I think you guys are sentimental. To me, I feel like
you're sentimental towards Brian.
towards Brian Hill.
Brian Hill, yeah.
No, it's a disgrace that he's been treated the way he has been treated.
But look, if we want
it's a disgrace. The guy's he's my friend.
If we want to prove our point that Daniel Levy did the right thing in terms of setting up the infrastructure in the first place, and now he's got us in the position where we can go out and do better on the football pitch, then we can't give out when the players that are not living up to the standard of the manager that we brought in to do the job. If he wants them gone, they must be gone in order to bring in better players. We only let Brian Hill go because we got Danjuma in. It is that's a 5-star move. It's not a 5-star window. Okay. That's a 5-star move.
All right. Okay. If Conte genuinely thinks that Brian Hill isn't up to it, and we're backing Conte, then fair enough.
I'm back the Juma.
It's more about back. If we're gonna bring in, if we're gonna all support Conte, or if some people might not support him for whatever reason, everyone has got their own opinions, right? But you can't expect someone like Conte, who is, like we all said, he might be rigid. I don't think he's actually rigid, in my opinion. I think he's just set in his way that he's trying to implement his philosophy and vision and mentality on this Tottenham team, right? So that once we do get the players in, it's going to fit straight in because you're already playing the system. You're already playing the way he wants to play. You just have a few tweaks here and there. You get a bit. Honestly, if we get
I hear what you're saying.
It's like what Adam was saying earlier, right? If we go and get 2 centre backs in and another midfielder, right? Two very good centre backs.
And a keeper.
We've already got the third best strike force in the league, statistically speaking. So then we've got the 6th worst defense in the league, right? The worst in the whole top 10. So if you then go and improve on that defense, you're gonna give yourself the best chance to be able for Conte to be able to play the way he wants to play, and I'm sure you'll start seeing the goals conceded come right down once you've got better quality players there, right? And that's with him not not having to tweak his philosophy or style just to suit someone like Jed Spence or Brian Hill or whoever it is. If you want to suit their type of football, you hire a manager who's going to play the way that suits their style, and that's it. And then he will have to tweak his squad again to fit in players to fit in his philosophy or his system.
Yep.
Just like what Poch did when he came in.
All right. No, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. When you started speaking, I thought you were talking more around the idea of Conte adapting to the squad he has, which I still think I don't necessarily agree with this idea. I play 3-4-3. This squad doesn't suit 3-4-3. Therefore, ergo, the squad's the problem. Like, you could adapt. I don't agree with that. But the point you're making about Brian Hill, I'll take it on the chin. I feel sorry for him. Not so much about him not being necessarily welcomed. My problem with Tottenham handling this is more the way that they've always left it to the last minute.
But he's only gone on loan.
He was going to go on loan in the summer, and it was a last-minute deal.com that got reneged on. And I think he wanted to go, and he's unhappy. He's hung around. He's worked hard. No one's ever criticised his training efforts. No one ever criticised his effort on the pitch. I think he's done really well. And then he wants to go away again, and he only gets allowed to go on the 30th of January. I just always feel like, to me, that Tottenham Hotspur treat him as a last-minute thought process. And that, to me, I don't necessarily think is the right way to treat a kid.
We have to think long term, and all we need to do is Brian Hill goes back playing for the team that he loves. He enjoys playing football there, so he's improving every single moment. And if he can get a good belly full of paella into him every single day and hit the weights at the same time, he can come back and be even more ready for Spurs next season. And it's the same thing with Jed Spence. He's gone on loan to play for Rennes. We wouldn't esteem Rennes incredibly highly, but it's still probably the best team that he's ever played for. He's getting an opportunity to play at another level. He could still come back even better in the summer. Yep. But these are guys that are
fair enough.
Really young. They are for the future at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you need those. You need. I'm
happy for him to go. I'm just sad the way that I feel like he's like a little baby brother almost. I feel like he needs to be treated with a bit more respect than he has. But I take your points, boys. You make good points, and I'm going to shut up about it. William Kelly with the super chat from Australia. What's happening, Willie? He's talking about the lady told me Paratici would be sacked. Your lady, mate. Your lady got it completely
wrong. Yeah, do you remember?
Last season, your lady was so wrong.
And we told him he needs to get a new lady because she didn't know what she was talking about.
He needs to get a new side bet, mate. Side bit.
She told him we were definitely not getting top 4 last season. And what happened? We were going to go and get top 4.
Yeah, we got there. Now she's saying we would win a trophy and be massive underdogs in the final.
She's a flip-flop.
She's a spiritual flip-flop.
All these things could come true, by the way. All these things.
We would win a trophy and be massive underdogs in the final FA Cup, Man City. And Conte will outlast the owners. Watch this space. Listen, Mr. Bill Kelly, I love you, my man. Thank you so much for the super chat. I am going to spend this last few seconds here to bring this bad boy up. Let's take a couple of seconds to think about it in real time. This is the FA Cup 5th round draw. Southampton versus Luton or Grimsby. What are we saying there? Southampton going to find a way to sneak it through? Probably.
Yeah, maybe.
Most likely,
yeah, most likely.
Leicester versus Blackburn or Birmingham. First of all, who's going to win between Blackburn or Birmingham? Blackburn at home is probably going to be... it's a tough one, one.
Is Brereton Diaz still playing for Blackburn?
Yeah.
He is, yeah. He's gone in the summer for a free transfer to Villarreal, I think.
Well, I said they're in with a shout then.
So Blackburn will beat Birmingham, and then Leicester versus Blackburn. Are we saying...
That's going to be a good game. Stoke versus
That'd be
Brighton.
A good game. Maybe a draw there, and we'll see what happens on the away leg. You might see Blackburn in the last 8. Yeah, Stoke versus Brighton. We're saying Brighton going to have the stones. Brighton is so good right now, right?
Yeah, they're solid.
Obviously, we're going to hopefully see Tottenham
I'd
play
love to see
Tottenham against Ryan.
That'd be so good. That'd be so good.
That'd be so good. Fulham or Sunderland versus Leeds. First of all, who's going to win between Fulham or Sunderland?
Fulham.
Yeah, I think Fulham. Well, Sunderland are playing very good football at the moment in their league. They're playing well at the moment. So I don't know. That's going to be a good game. That's going to be a good game.
I think Fulham at home could get the job done. And then Fulham versus Leeds.
I think we could see an upset
another tough one.
Fulham.
So you see Fulham in the final 8, do you?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
I think Leeds will do it if I don't know actually because Sunderland
Oh,
they're
Leeds bought
playing
Weston
well, man.
McKennie. Leeds
Yeah,
bought
Weston
McKennie.
Weston McKennie is www.ridiculouslyfuckingaverage.com. He's not. He really isn't that good a player. I don't know why people
No,
fucking worry
I'm
about
so
him.
glad we didn't get him. I definitely didn't want him for sure.
He's so bang average. And then obviously Man City will get that one done. We're probably going to see Man United get that one done.
I'd love to see West Ham destroy them.
Or
That's not going to happen,
Derby.
is it?
I'd
Not
love
going to
to see
happen.
it, but it's not going to happen. Yeah.
And then of those 4 teams,
Burnley are the best of the bunch. Top of the championship, playing really well.
So last date will be Burnley, Man United, Man City, Fulham, Tottenham, Brighton, Leicester, maybe Blackburn, Southampton. That's it.
Who do we want then?
Oh, you know who you want. You want Southampton, probably, don't you?
Or Blackburn?
Yeah.
Yeah, or Burnley.
Yeah.
I think we got
a
a path. We got a path to at least a semi-final here. We got a path to at least a semi-final.
I think there's a path to a final there, and it's literally just like
avoid Manchester United, Manchester City, and we're good, right?
At the end. Hopefully they play each other. They knock each other out in the semis while we're dusting off Leeds or someone, and then
24Z says we got absolutely no chance.
What do we have a chance, for feck's sake?
We got a chance. We got a chance. If you look at the betting market, we're 6-1. So it's not bad. Not bad odds. All right, guys, listen. I'm not sure. I haven't missed any other super chats. I think I've got everyone done. Listen, it was a wonderful stream. 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 45 minutes. I want to say thank you so much to Moondog, Brandon, John, Brazen Bull, Frankly, Jory, Paddy, Jory, Moondog again, Jory, Frankly again, Brandon, John, Jory, Brandon, and William Cahill. A lot of similar names. Thank you so much for your support for the channel. I hope you had a good afternoon with us. Danny, thank you so much for coming on, my man. I put your name, I put your thing already in the comments. What's happening on Tottenham on tour?
I'm not sure when we'll have our next show. But I know that we've got a new segment that we're going to be doing every couple of weeks now, which we had the first show last Wednesday. So it'll probably be every 2 to 3 weeks, I think. And yeah, we're going to have just a different kind of conversation, a lot more balanced views, some different people that you haven't seen before. And yeah, we had a really, really good show the other night. It was
yeah, I saw it with your
really enjoyable.
With the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust guy. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
Ian Lubin. Yeah. Ian Lubin. And we have Jay who was on there, but I've got a couple other people lined up who I want to bring on and might be able to give people some more insights and some more different kind of opinions that you normally kind of see, which would be good.
Amazing, mate. Thank you so much, Danny. Thank you also to George. You know, I don't have his I don't have his subtitles, but he's going to be on the Football Terrace. So right now, I think he's on the Football Terrace right now. So if you want to go and grab his socials, he'll be on there. Thank you so much to George as well. Legend. I'm going to have him on more often. And to Dave, obviously, at the Irish Hotspur. Adam, listen, there's a special thing. I'm not sure if this link that I'm going to put in right now is actually something to do with my channel or whether it's for the link for your thing.
I can send my link in the private chat here now.
Send it to me now, guys. Before you go, there's 200 people still watching. Don't leave just yet. Please don't leave just yet, because Adam is a fucking legend of the channel. He's a legend of the community, and he doesn't ask anybody to join any of his socials. But what he does do, what he is into, is amazing. He's a director of film, and I want everybody, if you're interested in this stuff, then please do me a favor. Let me go back to my comments. How do I get back involved here? Guys, listen, Adam is my fucking mate. He's a brilliant guy. He's a director. He's trying to get his film out. Adam, talk about the film. Tell me what's going on with it. The link is in the description there, amazon.to. Go for it, Adam.
Nice one, mate. I really appreciate giving me the opportunity to do this. So basically, guys, my film just dropped a couple of days ago on Amazon Prime. It's called Follow the Dead. It's an Irish zombie movie. So it's basically a dark comedy millennials versus zombies. So if you think that Shaun of the Dead was basically Gen Xers versus zombies, and Romero was like 1950s, whatever, versus zombies, this is the millennial approach. So it's like, what would millennials do in a situation where trauma incarnate is walking down the streets? And my take on it is basically we'd sit around doing nothing because we'd expect the government to do something about it. We would be assuming it's fake news because we're reading about it on the internet, and everything is fake news these days. And then obviously, the family that we're following, which is these guys here, it's not a cartoon, by the way. This is just for the purpose of the hoodie. This family spend all their time hemming and hawing until it's too late, and then chaos ensues. So I'd love you to check out.
It's a great film, guys. I watched it on Saturday night. It's fun. It's certainly dark. It's a zombie movie, but it's comedy based. It's funny. It's hilarious, and Adam does an absolutely amazing job as a director. So if you have, do you have to pay to watch it? I'm not sure.
At the moment, yeah, you pay to rent it. Like, I mean, it's
a couple of quid. It's a couple of quid to rent it.
Yeah, it's $4.49 in HD, I think it is.
$4.49 to rent. Nice one if you want to watch it in HD. And then if you wouldn't mind, guys, what would really, really help me in terms of kind of elevating the film, pushing it out there. Everyone knows about the algorithm, right? This is how things work these days. It's no different in film. If you could please, if you do watch it, also give it a star rating. Be as honest as you like. Give it a star rating and give it a review. That would go really, really far.
It's actually got really good ratings as well on Amazon Prime at the moment, which is really good.
Yeah, guys, like Adam is a fucking absolute legend. He's a great guy. He supports me on my channel. I'm sure you've seen him other places as well. Look, you send me a super chat. I absolutely adore it. But this is this man's last year of his life of hard work and effort. He could just shove him that little bit of generosity from if you can afford it, and then send the review out. Adam's a fucking absolute diamond geezer, and we got to get behind him from the Tottenham community because this is his livelihood. So please do what you can. Watch the film if you can. Certainly review it if you have watched it, and let's push it out. Let's try and get this guy. How many reviews do you need before it gets to go global?
Like in terms of it'll eventually go on Amazon Prime subscription, so whoever has a subscription can watch it for free if we get somewhere around 40 ratings and reviews. So that would really be, it'd be huge if the community kind of got behind it, and you'll have fun watching it anyway, guys. Just get the popcorn.
It's a great movie.
Get the hot butter over it and just enjoy yourself, because it's not a straight horror. It's a dark comedy, so don't be worried about getting scared or jumping out of your seat.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that stuff, but I watched it and I was laughing more than I was scared. It was fun. It's really good fun. Adam, congratulations on your hard work, bro. It's awesome to see it materialize. Yeah, guys, help him out. Help out Danny. Jump onto their channel. They're going to be far more leave you out than we are on this show, but it is what it is. We've all got to have our own opinions and get it out there. Guys, we'll like you and leave you. We'll love you and leave you. Danny, thank you so much. Adam, thank you so much. George and Dave, thank you so much. Guys, we'll see you, I guess, tomorrow, probably. And as always, guys,
leave you out.
Come on, you Spurs.
Bye-bye.